Hey guys, OGalbina here, bringing you guys our APA retirement home movie, draft analysis, all that good stuff. Today we're going to be going over my run for this league. I had a really fun team and I thought I would show it off. And this is kind of a nice little send-off and ode to Generation 8. We've moved into Scarlet and Violet. This league started a little bit before Scarlet and Violet came out. Honestly, with some weird timing, considering that the new generation was going to come out. But what APA retirement basically is a bunch of OGs from APA in the past. They want to get together and play a league. They hadn't played draft in a while. And they asked me to play. And I thought it would be a lot of fun. We have some buddies that we play consistently on the channel in the league, like John and Kurt and people like that, and a lot of people I haven't played in a long time, or that really haven't played in a long time. So I figured it could be a lot of fun to showcase this run, and I loved my team. And there's honestly some Pokemon on here, which you kind of see that definitely got shafted in Generation 9, or at least function a little bit differently. So I figured it'd be fun to kind of send off Generation 8 with a bang and show off this really fun run here. So if you guys do enjoy today's movie, be sure to drop a like as well as sub to the channel. I would really appreciate it a ton. We're on our way to 2,000. The support lately has been immense. And yeah, with that being said, we could jump off and jumping into the team. Generation 8 coming to a close. I want to get a Pokemon that I hadn't really gotten the opportunity to use before up to this point. I had third pick overall in the draft, and there were still some great things left on the board. As long as into Crown was still on the board, the typical first two went in Urshifu and a Dragapult. But there were still things like Zamazenta, Dio Speed, Lander's Eye, things like that I definitely could have given a shot, but I had to give Torntia a shot, man. I've only used it in tournaments and things like that, and when I think of Generation 8 draft, I think of Dragapult, but I also think of Torn, especially because Polt and Urshifu were kind of getting banned in most places towards the tail end of the generation. So I really do think of Torn when I think of Generation 8 draft, and I had to give it a shot myself. Regenerator, the best ability in the game, at least in singles. Getting 1/3 of my HP every time I switch out on a fast Pokemon with U-turn, base 121 speed is incredible. Heavy duty boots making me avoid hazards. I can run standard Torn.exe, which I probably will most weeks, which is Hurricane, U-turn, knockoff, taunt, but I can also mix in nasty plots and heat waves and grass knots and different things like that pretty easily. Some toxics and things like that as well. Sludge Bomb and Wave. Like, it actually does have great coverage. It typically isn't used just because Hurricane is such a high, strong base power move. A little bit unreliable, but I think if you use Torn correctly, using Torn correctly is essentially not being forced to click U-turn to win a game or keep it alive or anything like that. I feel like Torn is used best when you're clicking knock and U-turn, setting up advantageous positions for the rest of your team, while Hurricane is just a nice added effect if you're in a position you're like, wow, I have a very free Hurricane here, and if you hit, perfect. If not, oh well, I'm U-turning out the next turn and I'm doing okay. So I really do like Torntia. I think it's an incredible Pokemon. I think it's just top 3 in the format, and if you're banning Urshifu, it's top 1. So it's a really an amazing Pokemon. I'm excited to try it here. We're going to hopefully draft a team that really appreciates Torn, U-turning in and out. Speaking of which, our second Pokemon definitely does in Victini. Another momentum grabbing Pokemon itself. You're going to see it's going to be a big theme with this team. Is going to be regen, momentum, getting in strong breakers and doing some damn work. And that's what Victini is here to do. Incredible Pokemon. I absolutely love Victini. It's in my top 10 kill leaders going into the season. I think it's at like 5 or something like that. And spoilers, by the end of the season, it gets to number 1. Absolutely love using this thing, whether it be physical with Choice Scarf or Band, special, mixed. Boots is amazing on Victini. Specs and Scarf and Band are amazing on Victini too. Resist Berries, incredible. I've even run Assault Vest Victinis in the past. I've run, plenty of different options with all of this insane coverage. I love Willowtini. T-Wave is a really cool option. Scorching Stance was a nice addition to its move pool for Heatrans and things of the sort. So there's some really incredible things that Victini can rock out with and do, and I'm really excited to use it. And Torn, again, really facilitates it well, and U-turning in and getting it in for free, so Victini can either U-turn to keep up momentum or punish a team and smash through a wall that wants to switch in on Torn. Alrighty, next up, more regen plus more momentum, and that's going to be Slowking. Slowking in Generation 9, it got Chilly Reception, which is cool because Generation 8 it had a little move called Teleport, which is a little bit better in my opinion, just because it's guaranteed negative priority, which is incredible, obviously. With Regenerator plus Teleport, you can get in and out for free very easily. You're incredible with an Assault Vest. Obviously, you can't teleport if you're Assault Vest, but you're incredible with Assault Vest with your massive Spadef set. You're great with Calm Minding and Nasty Plotting and Trick Rooming if you really need to, or just being a Boots, Teleport, Slack Off to attack set, Future Sight plus Teleport into things like Rillaboom and Torn and Victini and Mienshao, which we're all going to talk about later, and our Mega that we end up getting is really an incredible option to go for, and it makes this thing such a good facilitator of our offense, and I really, really do appreciate Slowking a ton. One of my favorite Pokemon to draft and draft, like we have it in BBR right now, and I loved it in Generation 8 too. It's probably one of my most drafted grass types. Or grass types. Water types. Grass types, though. We got Rillaboom right here, is who I was looking at. Now, Rillaboom, man, they gave my boy the short end of the stick in Generation 9. They took away Grassy Glide. They took away Superpower. They took away High Horsepower. They nerfed Grassy Glide to a weaker move. So Rillaboom went from being, like, arguably, like, a top 20 mon in the format, to not being very good at all, in all honesty. But we get to use Rillaboom one last ride off into the sunset at its peak, at its most high physical performance, and we're going to get to use it here. Grassy Glide plus Grassy Terrain, at least in Generation 8, is a nasty, nasty combo. Rocking out 70 base power, but that's obviously going to be much, much stronger than Terrain. Also, being priority and stab is incredible, whether that be on Choice Band variants, whether that be on Swords Dance variants. I love Assault Vest Rillaboom, or even physically defensive Rillabooms and things like that is great. Again, alongside that U-turn to grab us momentum, which is incredible. It's a great, it forces its own progress very, very well, in the sense that you might have a flying type or a fire type that switches well into Rillaboom, but with the move Knockoff, obviously, we can always knock off their boots, their helmet, whatever they might be rocking out with, and then from there, if we're banned, we switch. If we're not banned and we're faster, we U-turn out. And from there, they're taking hazards as they come in, they're continuously taking chip, and we're getting in the rest of our offense, and soon, those Choice Band Rillaboom switches, they don't exist anymore. I mean, Pokemon like Torn, which we have, would be considered a pretty good Rillaboom check, but if you knock off its boots, after rocks, it just dies to Banded Woodhammer, which is also an incredible option. Like I said before, too, we do have Superpower and High Horsepower as great options as well. Knockoff is great. We can Swords Dance, we can Taunt, we can Leech Seed, we can do a ton of things like that. This Pokemon is absolutely incredible. We can bulk up as well. Grassy Seed Acrobatic sets are good niche matchups, so there's definitely a lot Rillaboom can do, and I'm definitely excited. More U-turn and more Regenerator. We're getting Mienshao. Again, U-turn plus switch, which is going to be really, really clutch this season. Very strong base attack stat in 125 and a solid speed tier in 105. Whether it be with a Scarf or a Life Orb or an Assault Vest, Mienshao is going to do some work. Its coverage is a little bit limited, but in all honesty, we don't need much more than it has between like close combat, Poison Jab, Knockoff, U-turn, random rock coverage, Stone Edge and Rock Slide if we need it. We can Sword Dance, we can Taunt. We can even have like a weird grass knot if it ends up coming clutch. Blaze Kick can work well in some specific niche matchups, and even acrobatics. So there's a lot that Mienshao can do. Despite its limited move pool, it really gets most of the moves that it needs. And again, it's going to be a strong breaker, and it's going to get in the rest of our team very well to do the work, which is awesome. Okay, I promise. These next couple Pokemon, I'm sure you can see them right there. They don't have any momentum means, especially Mega T-Tar. But this is a Pokemon I really do like. If you look at my team rep up to this point, I have no hazards right now, and I don't have a dark type, so I figured Mega T-Tar would be an incredible pickup for us. I really do love this Pokemon a ton. It was actually a Pokemon the first time I tried it. Right before that, I didn't like it. I thought it was bad. I figured having T-Tar without being able to hold Smooth Rock was tough, or being able to hold a Chople Berry or anything like that was kind of bad. But then I gave it a shot. I gave it the old OGalbina test, and which I do with every mon I say is bad. So if I say your favorite Pokemon is bad, trust me, I've tried it and I hate it. But I gave it a test and I absolutely loved it. And I realized that Mega T-Tar isn't played the same as regular T-Tar or anything like that. I don't think you should draft Mega T-Tar Sand. Like, Mega T-Tar Drill seems like a waste. Again, because I can't hold the Smooth Rock or anything like that. I don't facilitate my Sand offense very well. But on its own, this is an incredible Pokemon. Look at these base stats. With an Adamant Nature, we're hitting 469 attack at level 100, which is astronomical. 100 HP, 150 defense, 120 speed def, which is incredible, and we still have a base 71 speed and 95 special attack. There's not a bad stat on this Pokemon, and most of them are incredible. 4 to 6 are incredible, the other 2 are good, which is honestly absolutely amazing. It's a very reliable rocker. It can sweep with Rock Polish and DD. It can be physical or special. It can spread status and Thunder Wave and Toxic. Incredible coverage, like I said. Gives us a really, really good ghost check up to this point, which we do not have. Even Focus Splash in the sand. I mean, look at us in the sand. What is that going to do to us with 100, 120 in the sand? Most of them, dude, there's very little that OHKOs and Mega T-Tar. It is like stab close combat, and that's it, which is incredible. Whether they're doing to find an opportunity to set up or to live a crucial hit and get off some crucial damage afterwards and things like that. So, absolutely incredible Pokemon. I love me some Mega T-Tar, and I think if it's great on this team, and it's going to be great at getting up rocks and things like that. Now, I don't want to force it to be my only rocker, right? And I'm still missing a ground type. I'm still missing a steel type, so I grabbed Old Reliable next up, and Big Steelix. Another Pokemon I absolutely love. For its price point, it is incredible. It always gets its job done. Has 3 solid abilities in Rocket, Sturdy, and Sheer Force. Sturdy and Sheer Force are what you see most of the time, but Rocket Head Smashes are nothing to scoff at, especially in certain matchups. I've seen that a lot more as of recent, or at the end of Generation 8, at the very least. Iron Defense and Body Press is great, or as well as Curse is another option. Ground plus Steel is hard to switch into. It's a great defensive typing. We have a great ice resistant Slowking, like a really good ice resistant Slowking, so I'm okay with my steel type not resisting ice. I think we can get by. It can boom. It can even DD if you want it to, or rock polish, but probably not going to do that very often. We're going to Toxic, we're going to Roar, we're going to Stealth Rock. It gets access to high horsepower, so it's not, you know, getting weakened by our train, while we can chew up Earthquakes a little bit better with our train. It's a Pokemon that really appreciates other Pokemon having to run high horsepower themselves, or Stomping Tantrum, which is even better, because the weaker the physical ground move against Steelix is, the better, because he's probably not going to get 2-hit KO'd by it with that base 200 defense. This also means we very seldom have to invest in our defense stat. We can pretty much go max Spadef or really offensive in most weeks, and we have great coverage as well. And it's just an incredible Pokemon. For its price point, I absolutely love Steelix. Probably one of my most drafted lower tier Pokemon. Okay, up to this point, I have no Fairy and barely any removal outside of our Torn, so I wanted to grab something that could kind of help me out with both, and it really was the best thing left on the board in my opinion. For, you know, Fairy wise, I think there might have been like an Aromatisse or thing. I grabbed Comfey. I know a lot of people don't like Comfey, but I think it does its job well. It's not the bulkiest fairy in the world. I mean, look at these stats. But Triage plus Draining Kiss and Synthesis and things like that is an incredible tool. It's a really, really solid tool in all honesty. Being able to keep itself healthy, as well as threaten out dragons that really do threaten my team up to this point. With priority Draining Kisses, we can Calm Mind and Sword Power and Giga Drain, and obviously Draining Kiss. We can Aromatherapy to get rid of status on our team because it's a Cleric, which is incredible for us. We can Encore it. It's pretty deceptively fast too with base 100 if we're investing in things like that. We can Priority Synthesis in the U-turns. U-turn, U-turn, U-turn. We got another Pokemon with U-turn, baby. Taunt, all this fun stuff. So, while it's not the bulkiest thing in the world, I think it does serve its purpose very well on this team. And it was a good budget pick for what we had. This draft was a tiered draft because, again, a lot of the people that were playing this haven't played in a long time. And back when they played, tiers were the standard kind of drafting system. While I hate drafting tiers because I end up with shitters at the bottom like this, and everything's kind of wonky and out of place. I think points are just an objectively better way of drafting. I think this was the best we could do with our points, and from here you're going to see the team, the last 3 picks are going to kind of be down in quality, but not too bad. Next up, 2 rock types, 2 flying types. Who cares? I love Archeops. I think it's a really cool Pokemon. It gives me a nice 110 speed tier that I didn't have previously. It gives me another rocker. It gives me a breaker, man. This thing is strong. I don't care what anybody says. I think Archeops is very solid. Getting access to boots this generation, making it to where it doesn't have to play around those hazards coming in and get finicky with its Defeatist ability, which is obviously terrible, is great. And again, outside of Defeatist, there's nothing really stopping this Pokemon from being an absolute top tier threat. 140 attack, 112 special attack. Great. You have great coverage on it. Meteor Beam sets are also very, very viable with a Power Herb. Again, it rocks U-turns, and it can do a ton for teams. An absolute ton. It can switcheroo. Head Smash is a nuke off of this thing. Obviously, you're taking recoil, but man, sometimes that's what you need to do, and it's an absolute nuke. It even gets knockoff for some reason, which is cool. So, I'm a big Archeops guy. Alright, next up, probably some great value in my opinion. I know some people maybe not think it, but I got baby Porygon here. Yes, little tiny Porygon. The reason we got it is because there are certain ghost matchups that T-Tar does not appreciate. One in particular is going to be something like a Dragapult, and Porygon can soft check a lot of these dragons, or a lot of these ghosts, a lot better than something like, let's say, Mega T-Tar can, just because either we can just U-turn out on us, which is going to chip us down immensely over time, especially with hazards. Whereas Porygon can take those hits on a little bit better and recover. With an Eviolite, it's very, very bulky. You'd be very surprised as to how bulky this thing can get. It's not setup fodder despite its lower stats, because 85 special attack on top of analytic is pretty solid. Download is another option as well. You get foul play as well. You can Thunder Wave and discharge. You can teleport for more momentum, which is again important, of course. Triggering plus teleporting can also be clutch, say into like a Mega T-Tor or an offensive Steelix. You get great coverage overall. It's a very solid Pokemon for its price point. I think a lot of people realize that this gen, and we saw a lot of Porygon draft usage, whereas I don't think we ever saw any before. Then lastly, we have Ice Cube. There was really nothing left in the tier that I wanted. I figured it could be funny. I wanted to give my my ode to Amel in Generation 8, his boy, Big Ice Cube. I had to give him a shot. Spoilers, I don't ever bring him to a game. Not once. I tried so many times, Amel. I'm sorry, buddy. He sucks, though. He's really bad. He's really, really, really bad. And I could not get him to work like you could. Amel's he's a different beast. I am not that beast, so I couldn't get it to work. But he's funny, and I thought I could get some cool belly drum shenanigans, or maybe some, like, Rocky Helmet and the Mega Medicham shenanigans, but I couldn't figure it out. But, yeah, that is going to be the team. I'll be right back with Week 1. Alrighty, guys. Week 1, we're going up against Jock, someone who was definitely a great player in the past. I'm not saying he's not a great player now, but obviously he's shaking off the rust a little bit, and I'm hoping that ends up helping us out here. Jock actually ended up dropping mid-season, and the team that he had ended up getting changed pretty substantially. So I actually don't have the original matchup to a T, but I can at least let you know what he brought right here. We have a Mega Glade, a Gardevoir, a Garbodor, a Hippowdon, Excadrill, Cradily, and Latias. So pretty cool squad here. Big threats to me, the Mega Glade in particular just absolutely rips me a new one. Same thing with Excadrill. Under the Sand, like Life Orb Drill just kind of picks a KO every single time, so we have to be very careful about how we outposition things. I'm going to show you the squad that we have real quick. I actually have all my teams from this season, which is good. It's usually a something that doesn't happen in our in our movie runs. But we have standard Torn.exe. We're actually pretty offensive though. We're Hurricane, Knockoff, Taunt, and U-Turn. If you look at his team, his flying resist that he brought this week is going to be Excadrill. And any damage on that thing is great, as well as a knockoff. Taunt is for things like Hippo, stopping it from, slacking off or getting up rocks or toxicking. Same thing with the Latias. And then Hurricane, again, is pretty much unresisted against his team. Like, it does incredibly well. Next up, we have our Mega T-Tar. Pretty simple set here. We're actually Crunch, Toxic, Rest, Sleep Talk. This looks very interesting. We're very Spadef. There was also a Spectre. I'm just now remembering it as I'm like looking through this matchup and showing you my team right here. There was a Spectre, so I wanted a way to reliably switch in and, you know, be able to rest in on that thing. We can also soft check things like Latias, but you see, since there's no Spectre, I really don't think T-Tar is all that important. It's nice at getting off strong crunches and baiting a Toxic on the Hippo. It also pivots in on Garbodor well, which is nice. But again, Rest Talk is cool. If he's like a choice Latias and he's not like non-choice Aura Sphere, we also can like potentially wall it depending on what it clicks. And we always live an Aura Sphere as well, so that's also something that's important to note. We have a Choice Band Rillaboom, which seems interesting here, I know, with the Garbodor, but provided we get that knockoff on the Garbodor or catch it with the high horsepower one time, after that, Glide is so free. Same thing with Latias. If we catch it with a U-turn or knockoff, it's into a KO range Glide, and everything else almost just gets O-code by this move right here. And I really like the strong priority against the Mega Glade, because again, I really struggle with it. My only mod faster than it right now is going to be a Scarfing Edge, which can't really hit it very well, and Torn, which is unreliable with Hurricane. So I want a way to be able to reliably revenge that thing, and Choice Band Rillaboom is going to give me that option, and it just does really well overall this week. Next up, we have Victini rocking out with the Heavy Duty Boots. We're actually Blue Flare, U-Turn, Grass Knot, and Thunder Wave. Pretty interesting set. Grass Knot's going to help us with things like Hippo, like Spadef Hippo will be able to 2-hit KO it. Thunder Wave, over any coverage for Latias was kind of a last-minute decision, but I figured if I could T-Wave that thing, one, my T-Tar would be faster, which is obviously nice, and two, I'm going to be able to chip that thing down pretty substantially at the combination of Sand, plus U-turns and things like that, so where I feel like I can either put it in range of Victini 2-hit KO anyways, or I could put it in range of Torn. I can put it in range of Rillaboom, which is really the most important thing, because Rillaboom kind of is our end game in this game. So being able to chip down or slow down his team as well is going to be very, very important. But yeah, pretty good mon this week. Then we have a Fizdef Rocky Helmet Comfey. This thing is literally here just to pivot into the Glade and get some chip off. I know I don't even think I actually beat this thing 1v1 unless it like CCs twice for some reason, you know what I mean? Or he takes some chip prior or something like that. But regardless, it's going to be really nice in order to force helmet chip if he's in a position where he either is, I was going to say where he's clicking anything not a fighting move, but he's always going to. Maybe if I'm in a position where I'm in with Rillaboom and I'm not locked into Glide or something like that, he feels he can go for a triple axe, so I can get a bunch of chip off that way. And it's just a good pivot into it in general to chip it down. It also gives us defog. Well, it doesn't beat his hazard set. Sorry, Snowy's barking at us. We're going to have to deal with it for 2 seconds while I finish this mon, then I'll let her in the room. But it's going to be able to at least let me to deter hazards and get them out. Maybe it'll leave seed off of the Garbodor and pivot around it accordingly, which is nice. And then we have a choice Scarf Mienshao. Just wanted a strong, fast Scarfer in this game, and it really does help out. That it was a Scarfer faster than Spectre, which I didn't have anything faster than Spec at this point, so I figured it was the best option for that. So hold on, let me let Snowy out of the room, and then we'll start off the game. There you go, Snow. Okay. Those dogs, man. All right. So let's go ahead and jump into game number 1. So, right off the bat, I am just going to lead off with Torn. Draft lead player, lead Torn, and click U-turn. I am going to U-turn turn 1 as I don't really want to take a Rock Slide. I don't know if he's like adamant. I want to keep this thing somewhat healthy as he does go for a Toxic. I was fine going Mienshao there. Getting Toxic just because it's not the most useful thing in the world, to be completely honest. It's a strong Scarfer, I suppose, and I can U-turn around and, you know, do some shenanigans like that, but it's not necessarily needed, and it obviously can take anything he really wants to throw at it. If he decides to get up rocks, I'm completely fine with that as well. I have my Comfey to be able to defog in the back, so I really do feel pretty comfortable about that. He's going to go about on here, as I do believe I just click knockoff. Yeah, getting rid of this thing, Smooth Rock, is going to be super clutch for later in the game if I need to stall out that Excadrill from, you know, going crazy on me, as I can go Comfey right here on the Hippowdon pretty easily, and I believe just click defog. Now, in hindsight, maybe I should have U-turned here. Rocks aren't the biggest deal for my team. I have double boots and my Ron's weak to rocks, and then everything else doesn't really care about them, and letting in drill for free is pretty darn unfortunate, but I at least get those away for now, and I can kind of, you know, deal with them accordingly. I am going to elect to sack off my Comfey right here. I know it sounds odd. I literally brought it for Galate, but I was looking at my team, and Ironhead just put me in such a bad spot. I didn't want to take any chip on Rillaboom while I could live in Ironhead, just because of the fact that, what do you call it? Then I'm, like, in range of like 1 or 2 helmet hits from Garbodor, and everything else in my team got 2-hit KO'd. So I figured getting a slow U-turn in case he wanted a Sword Stance was a little bit more beneficial in my mind, as well as getting a little bit of chip on this thing, and, you know, putting him in range here. So he is going to go Garbodor here next. I am going to Grassy Glide. I didn't want to play around with it. I know, again, the switch is very obvious, but that is a game-losing play, potentially, if I get the play wrong and he doesn't switch out. So we are going to see that he's actually not Rocky Helmet, which is phenomenal info for me, like incredible info for me to be able to know that, and not really have to worry going forward. So he's gonna elect to get up a T-Spike. I'm not super worried about that. Rillaboom, again, is more likely to get worn down as we go, but again, not the biggest deal in the world, to be completely honest. We're gonna Toxic this incoming Hippowdon, which is good, really wearing it down over the course of the game. We're going to go hard Tornadus as he does click Roar. Again, completely fine. We're just going to get pushed down to Mienshao, and this is just another free U-turn. He can stay in, but like I said, oh, actually, I go Rillaboom here. A little bit of offensive momentum. Yeah, I guess that's fair, especially because he can't really Toxic me. Earthquake's not going to do anything, and things like that. So he goes Garbodor here. I do just click U-turn. Hindsight, maybe knockoff was a little bit better of a play, but Victini being in for free does allow me some pretty free momentum here, as I am just going to T-Wave expecting this Latias to come in, and I'm even fine with U-turning on a potential weakness policy now that this thing is paralyzed, and I can go a pretty free T-Tar, as I'm not too worried about anything this thing wants to go for. He does reveal to be Toxic, so probably a fatter Latias. Again, completely fine with me. I'm going to make the double out into my Rillaboom right here on the Hippowdon switching, as it does end up coming in right here, which is great, and I believe I just clicked knockoff this time. I'm pretty sure we finally just clicked the knockoff button. Let's see it. There we go, finally. So you see that does 45, a lot of damage to Garbodor, despite it being, you know, the check to this guy. Now it's in range of a Glide, or really anything else on my team. The moment he gives us up, the moment Rillaboom just starts killing everything. He does reveal Plane Split right here, but again, this is fine. Like I said, with Sand, and with this Blue Flare, and it being at 69, there's not much this Latias can do if it wants to come in. I'm pretty sure Blue Flare into U-turn might kill it. He does elect to just stay in and get up a Spike right there, and leaving that Garbodor on 1 is super... Oh, definitely doesn't die. It's so fat. But regardless, getting that Garbodor so low is super clutch for me, and I'm going to be able to go into Torn right here. I think I made this mid-ground play in case he wanted to go for an Aura Sphere on my T-Tar, as T-Tar can still soft check things like Cradily, as well as the not Garbodor, it's at 7, but it still checks the Cradily and the Latias and things like that if I can get in for free. And this is going to allow me a very, very free knockoff right here, as we could just knock off this thing's item and lose it, or the Cradily will come in and get its item knocked off. As we do taunt it the next turn, no recover, no rocks, didn't want either of those up. Then I'm going to be able to U-turn as a Giga Drain comes out. Does decent chunk of damage, but again, I'm not super worried about what do you call it, Mian Xiao here. I'm going to close combat, as it does do a lot of damage to whatever wants to come in, and keeping that Hippo low is really, really clutch for me. He does elect to sack off the Garbodor, so now I don't even have to worry about Aftermath or anything of the sorts. I'm able to get a big close combat off on this Gallade, putting it guaranteed in range of Rillaboom. If he was like a really fat set, he could live one from full, so I figured that that was pretty beneficial. Now I'm going to be able to go Rillaboom, and it's Grassy Glide time. We get one right there with the Latias coming in, which is obviously very, very nice. We see Hippo come out, and it just dies, which is definitely pretty crazy. Oaking Hippo with anything physical is always a good time, so we'll take that from Big Boom, and then we'll glide again and take out this Gallade, which is awesome. Cradilly's gonna come out, and this was actually a roll, and due to like the poison and things like that, and just maybe potentially Drill getting a spin off and getting out of hand, I figured keeping Rillaboom in the back to get one more big Grassy Glide off, as it will kill Excadrill from there, was really important and nice. So I figured, why not go T-Tar right here, as I don't need it. It doesn't beat anything else on these teams, as I can just throw off, I think, a big Crunch right here. Yeah, no reason to try and Toxic and get all cute with it. Now that this Drill is, you know, going to be in range here soon, we're going to be in a pretty good spot, as he does high horsepower and it does take us out. But now we can go into Victini, as the sun has ended. We're going to go ahead and click Blue Flare once right here on the Excadrill. Cradilly's going to come out. I believe I click Blue Flare once. I actually get a burn, which is really nice because he's Rock Slide. And then from here, I believe I'm just going to Blue Flare again as he recovers. I U-turn, go Torn, and just Taunt and Hurricane. If I missed the Hurricane, we were obviously fine. We had Rillaboom plus Victini in the back. So, plus a lot of turns to hit a Hurricane. So we're going to be able to take home a week 1 win against Jock. It's always good to get off on the right foot. The team functioned well. I think T-Wave Victini was really, really clutch in pairing that Lottie, which was obviously awesome. It just kind of took that thing out of the game in general. And again, the team's functioning well so far, despite some, you know, despite a rough first matchup, in all honesty. So that's going to be game 1. We'll be right back with week 2. Alrighty, week 2 rolls along. We're going up against Scotty Dr. Pepper. He has a really interesting squad here. Very, very trick room oriented. Again, someone who ended up dropping mid-season, so I don't have his original team. But you can see what he brought, at least initially. We're going to see a Vaporeon, a Cofagrigus, Neolako, Rotompede, Melmetal, and the Meow... I almost said Meowscarada. Nope, we're still in Gen 8 for this one. Meowstic. Now, the biggest set to me, in my opinion, is either like an OTR, like trick rooming, like... or what do you call it, Cofagrigus, but even then, it has to be a body press for my T-Tar, and my Steelix can eat that up and things like that, so not super worried about that, I suppose. And then we also have Neolako, which is a big, big issue to our team. Like, Neolako really, really scares me in the end game. If it can sufficiently chip down my team and, you know, put itself in a good position to win. Maybe we don't have Rillaboom, but I think we have a good squad for this one. I'll go ahead and show you the team on screen real quick. We are going to be rocking out with Torn. This week, we are actually not a taunt variant. You're going to see that might bite me in the ass here. But we're actually a pretty offensive Hurricane, Knockoff, Heat Wave, and U-Turn. Just Heavy Duty Boots. If you look at his team, he does not appreciate this Pokemon. We get a knockoff on the Rotom, and then get up Rocks with our Steelix, which we'll talk about in a minute. It's really not a good switch into our Torn anymore, and it can really, really be liable to get chipped down. Same thing with Nihi. Honestly, Knocks into U-turns are just going to pepper throughout the game. And if he wants to use Nihi as his Torn switch in, I'm completely A-okay with that. Because then that means it's not going to be as much of an offensive threat. And I can get momentum into it and things like that. Heat Wave is to be able to hit Melmetal as hard as humanly possible. Maybe I could have gone without it, considering I have pretty good Melm counterplay. But that's what we went for this week. Next up, we have a pretty cool Grassy Seed Swords Dancing Rillaboom. He also had a Vileplume on his team, I believe, which is why we end up going with this set. Again, if we can force that chip on the Rotom, knock it off, get up rocks, things like that, we can put it in range pretty darn quick. And then other than that, this Swords Dance, Drain Punch, Acrobatics, Grassy Glide really does a number to this team. Like, he does not appreciate this Pokemon in the slightest, so we're going to be able to hopefully break through his team with Rillaboom in the end game. We do, early game though, have a great breaker in Victini. We're rocking with Choice Specs this week. We're Blue Flare, Psychic, U-Turn, and Energy Ball. Again, just hits his team so hard. There is not a Spec Psychic switch in on his roster at all. I almost said Meowscarada again. Meowstic doesn't count, guys. So we're able to kind of click Spec Psychic for free in this game, which is awesome, especially if that Vaporeon is more Fizz Def. Then we have a very Fizz Def Steelix here. We are rocking out with Roar, Body Press, Iron Head, and Stealth Hawk. Roar is to roar out like a Iron Defensing Melmetal, which he definitely could be in this matchup, into like Steelix and things like that. Same thing with like a Meteor Beaming Nihilego or something of the sort, or just to phase things around as Trick Room is up, to really wear things down. We have Rocks, obviously, to get up Rocks and chip things down. Iron Head is to do, decent amount of damage to the things on his team. We don't have a ground move. I don't particularly remember why. I'll be 100% honest. But Body Press is going to do a lot of damage to the things that would have taken Earthquake anyways. And yeah, just does really well here as a nice, defensive pivot into things like Melmetal, and even takes hits from things like Nihilego and things like that. Then we have a Life Orb Mienshao. Yes, Life Orb Mienshao. I think it does really, really well this week. Outside of Cofagrigus, there's not a single switch into this Pokemon. It does incredible. We have Close Combat, Knockoff, Blaze Kick, and U-Turn. I think Blaze Kick was for that Vileplume that we mentioned a little bit prior. Other than that, Close Combat and Knockoff just hit everything very, very hard. So we should be able to break through squads like this pretty darn well. And lastly, we once again have a Rest Talk Mega T-Tar. Love this Pokemon. They're actually special this week as it does hit his team a little bit better. Now, it doesn't hit the Nihilego as well, but Nihilego can't really do anything to us. Even like Grass Knotting variants and things like that, even at +1, we're going to absolutely eat it up, and we can kind of win the war of attrition, or at least put it in Rillaboom range, which is kind of the main important thing. We do give the Nihilego a Spadef boost as well, but again, I felt like Special was just a little bit better in this matchup, where things like Cofagrigus exist, as well as things like Melmetal, and a potentially Fizz-Def Vaporeon, and things like that. So, yeah, with that being said, we can go ahead and jump on into the battle itself. Again, you can see what he ended up bringing. We can go ahead and jump right in right away. We're going to lead off with Mienshao immediately, as we do see it Rotom Heat. I am going to U-turn and do a decent chunk of damage, showing that this thing is going to be pretty darn defensive, though, unfortunately. We take a little bit of Life Orb. He Wisps turn 1. This sucks in his mind, obviously, because I went hard T-Tar on a Wisp, which, again, makes sense from him. It's a very good play. My team doesn't appreciate Wisp, and hard Victini is a pretty aggressive play when I want to keep health on that thing right now. But as you're going to see, I am especially offensive, so he'll see it right here, I suppose. So it really didn't matter in the slightest, especially because I could rest up a little bit later. Vaporeon comes in and takes like no damage from that. I go hard Torn just to scout and see what he wants to go for, and I see Acid Armor. And this is where I started kicking myself, man. The 1 week I don't bring standard Taunt Herder Torn, I play against some like Acid Armor Vaporeon cheese, which is really, really not fun for me, as you're going to see. Now, I do 2-hit KO him, potentially with the Hurricane from a range like this, as he does throw off a Wish. I'm going to knock off his leftovers to really try and mitigate the amount of health he can heal up. I am going to Hurricane right here. He does Scald. He takes a decent chunk from the Hurricane. You see it does 36. I just got to hit 2 of them, but I don't hit 2 of them. We're going to see a Wish, and he actually ends up not being Protect 2 is another thing I've noticed right here, is he's going to get up another Acid Armor. I'm going to miss yet another, Hurricane, and I'm going to U-turn out here, basically sacking off Mienshao, because my idea is to try and get as much damage as possible off with these close combats right here, and I can get 2 off, guaranteed, as long as he doesn't crit me, and if I can get those 2 close combats off, I can go into my Victini and do a ton of damage with the Specs Energy Ball. And even if I'm taking that Scald on Victini, this is super clutch for me. He won't be able to out-heal me with Wish. I do 55 right here, which is nice, and I get a Spadef drop, which really does help out. And while this is a 2-hit KO, no matter what, I am keeping him low right here, which is the main important thing. He's going to pivot into the Cofagrigus, which is great. I do 37. I get another Spadef drop, but unfortunately I don't kill from here, so I still do have to switch out, as we are going to see the Cofagrigus set up Trick Room. I make a pretty big blunder here as well, in the sense that I kind of forget about Body Press in the moment. I'm like, where'd I wall this? Whatever. I'll just go T-Tar. I'm going to click Dark Pulse for free. He does click Body Press for a lot of damage, though. And this makes me very, very susceptible to that endgame Nihilego. We're going to have to be very careful with things like Rillaboom and things like that, unless we can find an opportunity to get a rest up, which is hopefully going to be what goes down. As right here, we're going to see double Nightshade from the Cofagrigus. I am going to U-turn, as it does mummy me, though, unfortunately, as Heat Wave probably would have been my better play in that instance. I'm not going to get my regen back because of that, so that's a pretty cool interaction here from him. I'm going to go hard T-Tar on the Steelix. He does end up Wisping, which really, really helps me out, because this is going to allow me to get off that rest that I was really wanting to get off earlier. I'm putting a tough spot here, though, as the Vaporeon comes hard out. I do make the decision to go hard into my Victini to try and get off a Specs Energy Ball. He does throw off a pretty safe Wish, though, so I'm going to pivot out and U-turn out as he throws off 1 Wish. But since there's no acid armor, I'm able to get into my Rillaboom. I do Swords Dance initially. In hindsight, Glide was probably my better play, just because of the fact that this thing did get 2-hit KO'd from a Glide. The Rotom was a likely switch in, and when this Rotom comes in, I'm going to have to switch out anyways. Like, I can't sack this thing yet, in the slightest. So, game's not going too well for your hero at this point. We're going to pivot out into Victini. He is going to Wisp. He misses, but obviously it does not matter. We're going to throw off a Spec Psychic, do 60%, which is great. And I'm going to be able to pick a KO here. There's not really much he can do about it. He could have pivoted Melmetal or Meow, but again, that's good for me because I'm able to get off a lot of damage. Right here, he is going to go on to the Meow. I have no reason to sack off my Victini in case he has like Shadow Ball or something like that, so I decided to go into my Tyranitar. He is going to show to be screens, but we do also see that he is leftovers, showing us that he's not a light clay variant, which is really, really going to help us out. I am going to get my rocks on this thing. Chipping down this team as much as humanly possible is going to be very, very important. I think this next turn I make a double out into Victini, which is a bit unfortunate, but again, not the end of the world. I throw off an Energy Ball to get off as much damage as possible, as we see that the light screen would have ended this next turn. If you want to throw off an Acid Armor or anything like that, I would have put him in range, but I'm going to be able to go out into my Rillaboom right here and at least 2-hit KO him with Grassy Glide, as he does throw off a Wish right here, but again, he shows to not be Protect on this set, so I'm able to get off, you know, some big damage with these Grassy Glides. Only doing 25 to the Meow right there, actually, which is pretty insane. I know his screen's up, but goodness gracious. Wait, no, he wasn't leftovers. He was light clay. Okay, I'm sorry, y'all. My bad. We're gonna go T-Tar right here, though. And I believe I am just going to throw off a Sleep Talk, get off a big Dark Pulse as he throws off a Trick Room right here, showing that he is like a full supporting moves Meowscarada. No, oh my gosh, I keep saying it. Meowstic, really not being too scary for me here, as I am going to be able to get off another Dark Pulse in this very Spadef Melmetal here, which is interesting to note. But my Steelix is still around and healthy. We take absolutely nothing from that Body Press, and you're going to see we have a very free Body Press of our own here, and we're going to be able to throw it off, and we definitely beat this Melmetal 1v1. Actually, no matter what he does right here, he's going to go down if he attacks us, or if he wants to come back in late, or whatever happens. Like, Melmetal is no longer an issue. Trick Room is going to go away. The Meowstic's going to come out right here. It throws off a big Reflect right here, as I'm going to Iron Head, and if he wants to throw off a Light Screen, again, I'm just going to try and get off as much damage as possible. This is really going to allow me to chip down his team and things like that. Now, from here, I'm in a pretty interesting spot, right? Obviously, we have Nihilego and Aerial out. My best play, always, is to click Roar. I don't want to allow him to Wish. I don't want to allow him to Acid Armor. He obviously eats anything that I want to go for, so going for that Roar is going to be my safest play overall, and it's going to leave him at 1% coming back in. He is going to Scald, but again, that's completely fine with me. I'm able to go into Rillaboom right here, and I'm able to throw off a big Grassy Glide. Now from here, the game is pretty darn safe. I go on to my Tyranitar, and even if he's like a Meteor Beam set or whatever it may be, I can kind of stall out these, these screen turns and just get him slowly in range of my Rillaboom. Now you'll see that does 6%, which is crazy. It also shows that he is a room service Trick Rooming Nihilego, which is something I definitely have never seen in my Draft League career, so I gotta give him kudos there, because that's definitely cool. But you'll see, he's doing absolutely nothing to us. I think I start baiting for a freeze right there, which is pretty funny. It doesn't, again, end up mattering. I do just end up winning with my T-Tar over the course of many turns. You see, it starts doing a little bit more. 17 is a little bit nicer. But you see, with the Rest Talk variant, we're not really in too much danger. And again, we still had a Rillaboom. So we're able to pull that one back despite pretty sloppy play on my end the first part, and not bring Taunt Torn, which is a big mistake that you should never make. You should always be Taunt Torn, it feels like, or shit like Acid Armor, no Protect, Vaporeon are gonna do you dirty. So yeah, that is week 2. Let's be right back with week 3. Alrighty guys, week 3 rolls around and we're going up against Panther, and he's got a pretty nasty squad here. You can see the squad that he's rocking out with above me here, with the Mega Lopunny and Dragon, which is an incredible offensive core, and then he has the Jirachi Kiss rounding up the fantasy core, which is really scary, and then a solid Rocker and Regirock in this game, and Shaman. He obviously had some other big threats on his team, but the biggest threats to me in particular in this matchup is one, Dragapult. I kind of mentioned in the draft analysis that I wanted to bring Porygon, but the issue for like a Pult matchup, the issue with Porygon though is that Porygon loses to everything else on his team. It's really bad here in my opinion. So I really didn't feel too comfortable bringing Porygon and allowing for you turn into 87 of the Pokemon that 6-0 me, in particular that Mega Lopunny. I do not have good answers to Mega Lopunny. It is a very very scary Pokemon against me. This is probably one of my toughest matchups of the season, but I do think we have a pretty cool squad we're rocking out with here this week. So, to show it off, we have our Torn here first. We are a pretty physically defensive Torn here with Hurricane, U-turn, Knock Off, and Taunt. Soft pivots in on Lop. I think we probably live a triple axle based on the spread. I don't remember. It's been a long time since I played this game. But we're not going to make our same mistake that we made before. We do have Taunt, which is going to be great for things like Togekiss and Jirachi and Shaman. Well, Shaman not so much, but Regirock as well. So Taunt's going to be great, and then Hurricane is pretty spammable in conjunction with Knock Off and U-turn, really chipping down those flying resist very well. Then we have a pretty spadef, but, you know, pretty offensive Mega T-Tar with Crunch, Rock Slide, Rest, Sleep Talk. Yes, again, a Rest Talk T-Tar. It slows down later in the season, trust me. We don't lean on this as much. But offensively, it does really well into this team. His only switch into dual stabs is going to be that Mega Lopunny, which doesn't appreciate switching into that, plus the potential of rocks, plus sand, and things like that. It's really going to start getting chipped down, which is really nice for us. So, again, I'll take it. Other than that, he doesn't really appreciate the Pokemon all too much, and it checks things like the Dragon Ball pretty well. Obviously, we can get you turned out on, but Rest is going to hopefully keep us healthy enough to keep it at bay. Then we have a pretty offensive Victini here. Heavy duty boots for Blue Flare, Will-O-Wisp, U-turn, and Energy Ball. Does very solid in the matchup. Again, his only real pivot into this on his team right now is going to be the Dragon Ball. But if I can catch the Dragon Ball with the Blue Flare, again, rocks, maybe sands up, that's amazing for me. It's incredible for me, in fact. So being able to do that, maybe spread some Wisps and things like that. I'm not 100% sure what Wisp was for. There's probably something else in his team that I was scared and I want to Wisp for. But other than that, Blue Flare is really, really free. I can burn the Regirock, which would obviously be very, very nice, and slowly whittle that thing into range of an Energy Ball, which, again, would be great. Then, next up, we have our Rillaboom. We were rocking out with the Choice Band, Rillaboom, Grassy Glide, Knockoff, U-turn, High Horsepower. I felt like it was a pretty necessary evil in this matchup. Now, it's not the best Rillaboom matchup in the world, to be completely honest, but I wanted the Band Glide to revenge the Lopunny pretty much like 100% of the time after like any chip, as well as it does a lot of damage to Dragapult, potentially revenging that thing. Knockoff is very spammable into this team, like incredibly spammable, to where I can knock off Shaman, Jirachi, Togekiss, and then U-turn around, and again, hopefully setting up the rest of my team, really whittling them down, to where even Grassy Glide Rillaboom, I think, can clean this game, which is weird as it sounds with as many, you know, defensive checks as he might have to Rillaboom. But again, I also didn't really have anything on the bench that I liked either. Then we have a Shuckleberry Steelix with Iron Head, Stealth Rock, High Horsepower, and Roar. I think he might have had a Mammo Swine too. I'm not 100% sure if he had Mammo. I think he had Mammo too. I'm pretty sure, which was a big threat to me. But we are Shuka here, rocking out with Iron Head, Stealth Rock, High Horsepower, and Roar. Sheer Force just to get more damage on our Iron Heads and things like that. We check things like Regirock. We can always live a Lop hit. We can always live physical pull hits if it's physical. We can always check the Jirachi, which is nice. Shaman doesn't appreciate taking a Sheer Force out of an Iron Head, especially if we roar that thing out and roar around, things like that, which can be nice. And again, we check the Togekiss as well. So, again, all good things. Then, lastly, we have our Slowking. It's Rocky Helmet, physically defensive. It's our best semblance at a Lop check. It might not take it on super well in conjunction with U-turn and hazards and things like that, but we'll at least punish it for attacking. And I'm hoping I can lull it into a sense where he could be in versus a Torn, think he can knock us out with a triple axle, and I pivot Slowking, get a bunch of chip off. And again, hopefully whittle him down for the rest of the game. Future Sight and Scald is very good into the squad as well. Future Sight really putting a lot of pressure, making it to where things like Lop and Pult don't want to come in as much, where Scald spreads a ton of burns, and Shaman does switch into as well, but we catch that with a Future Sight and then teleport out, or switch hard out into something like Victini. That's really going to help us out, or Torn just to U-turn, and then U-turn forces something like Regirock and Future Sight, so there's a lot of cool interactions there. Alrighty, that being said, we can finally jump into the battle itself. We're going to go ahead and jump in. I am going to lead off with my Slowking this game and not my Torn because, one, Regirock lead is, you know, fairly likely in the sense that he can get a rocks. Same thing with like a Rocking Jirachi, but also that Mega Lop lead to get off that Mega and U-turn out seemed pretty likely, or at least to force like, or maybe even try to pick up a kill triple axle, but I'm assuming he would either U-turn or hard switch, gunning for like Scarf Torn to catch him off guard. But regardless, I felt Slowking led well into anything not Shaman. He's going to go ahead and get up his rocks this turn. I'm going to throw off a Scald. Unfortunately, I don't get a burn, but I do get 41 off, and that's always going to be great for things like my Victini in the back. And honestly, I'm not too worried about rocks in general this week. My Victini and my Torn are boots, and everything else in my squad doesn't care about them too much, especially in conjunction with grassy terrain and stuff like that. So I'm feeling pretty okay with that. Next up, I'm going to go for a Future Sight as he pivots into Shaman, and I'm going to pivot Torn. He makes a good play and goes for the Toxic. However, I'm not super pressed about this because I know that I can always U-turn out and get a bunch of my health back. This next turn I am going to knock off as the Jirachi comes in. It takes a ton of damage, 33%, which is great. And we're going to see the weakness policy. So Panther's trying to cheese me right now with some fat setup, but we didn't fumble the bag and not bring a taunt Torn this week as we should have last week. Future Sight does negative damage. But what I'm kind of forced here to do is taunt. I don't think he's going to attack me. I guess like something like a Thunderbolt or an Ice Punch or a Thunder Punch, something like that. Even Ironhead probably would have killed me from here, but I cannot allow him to Wish. I can't allow him to Cosmic Power. Things like that are just a great way for me to lose this game. So I am going to taunt as he does try and Cosmic Power in my face. So thankfully we're able to get that play right and keep our Torn, because I can U-turn out this turn, get most of my health back, and go into Victini as he shows the Drain Punch. So showing that he is a physical set, so I'm assuming it's Ironhead, Drain Punch. He Drain Punched, maybe assuming Tar would come in. I'm not 100% sure. I went Victini because I can live a +2 Thunderbolt from full, which is obviously really nice, and then force this thing out or kill it with a Blue Flare. So that's what we're going to go for this next turn, but we're going to miss our Blue Flare, and this sucks, man. This is not fun. Him having one less Pokemon throughout this game would have been huge. Not having this Jirachi would have been incredible for me, and you're going to see gonna kind of compound some shenanigans as the game goes on. It's right here. He's going to switch this time, so I'm not 100% sure. Maybe he called my U-turn or something of the sorts. I'm really not 100% sure as to why he made that play. I suppose I could have also Will-O-Wisp, but Will-O-Wisp is less accurate than our Blue Flare with our Victory Star, so I don't know. I feel like I still made a pretty safe play, because look, that Blue Flare did 36 Tours Resist. And again, he has the Regirock on the back, but I'm not too worried about that thing. And we do have E-Ball for it too. So, and based on his spread, we could have also potentially knocked him out with an Energy Ball after. I am kind of forced T-Tar here as he just makes a very safe U-turn play, and you're kind of see why this thing is such an issue, this Pult, man. But I'm going to make the Slow King play right here as Lop is going to come out and probably U-turn itself. Yeah, it does. But we at least get some Sand Chip and some Helmet Chip off, getting it very low, and it's definitely in range of our... what do you call it now? I'm going to hard switch out into T-Tar. I don't want to get flinched down by this Togekiss and not be able to regen it off or regen off enough health. He's going to Nasty Plot and try to be pretty offensive, and he's going to Aura Sphere and take me down, which is pretty unfortunate, but not the biggest deal in the world. I'm going to throw off a big Blue Flare, do 46. I unfortunately didn't really have another option to break through this thing, right? I am not sturdy, and rocks are up anyways, so Aura Sphere just knocked out my Steelix. My Slowking loses to this, my Torn loses to this, especially Poison, and my Rillaboom loses to this, so Victini being able to come in and attack this thing was pretty darn important. Thankfully, the Sand does end this turn, so I am able to not die right here, and I'm going to throw off a big Blue Flare, do 21 to this Regirock as it gets back up to about half HP here this next turn. I don't know why I didn't U-turn. Oh, I know why I didn't U-turn, because I didn't want to get caught by like a random helmet on something in the back, on being getting an aggressive U-turn off, and I figured getting Steelix was fine, so I could just get up my rocks and kind of go from there. He's going to go into his Jirachi and try and cheese me again, but I'm just going to roar him out. There's no shot I'm letting that happen, not right now at least. The Lop comes out, and I actually elect to stay in with my Steelix. While Steelix is good at soft checking things like Regirock, Regirock is pretty low. The Jirachi, I don't think I'm going to give it too many more opportunities to set up at this point. Maybe with my Slowking, but even then I can teleport out into something like Victini and still knock it out with Blue Flare. And I don't really have great switch-ins to this Lopunny. My Slowking is at 48, and I would actually rather use my Slowking to spread Scald Burns and teleport around, maybe throw off a Future Sight, things like that, whereas I know my Steelix can get immediate value right now and knocking out this Lopunny, because after the CC, we do knock it out with a Sheer Force boosted Iron Head, which is obviously incredible for us. We force in the Pult next, which is great because more Rocks turns is more likely it's going to be put in a range of a Grassy Glide. I'm going to go Torn this next turn and just knock off right here as the Regirock comes in, losing its leftovers. And again, it's annoying that Regirock is, in now, but it's lost any form of recovery at this point, and it's down at, 26%. I still do have my Slowking, as he is going to like to go for a Thunder Wave here, and then he's going to Stone Edge. Doesn't do much because I'm physically defensive, so I just throw off a Future Sight. Again, really pressuring this team, as Shaman isn't the biggest worry to me. Togekiss at 36. The Jirachi is at, 63? So pretty chipped down. That plus Scald or just anything on my team is going to be nice for us. And it's really nice for the Pult trying to, pivot in and hurt us later. The Stone Edge is going to come out right here, and I'm unable to get a teleport off into my Victini, which would have been incredible. With a Future Sight in the air, that was an immediate KO. There wasn't anything that he could have done, because the only pivot he could have made was going into Pult. Pult dies to E-Ball into Future Sight. Everything else, E-Ball into Blue Flare, on top of Future Sight, obviously, does kill everything. So it was an immediate KO right there, as he's going to make another Thunder Wave play, maybe expecting me to hard out and save it, but I was just going for a miss to see if I get a teleport off. Unfortunately, I do not get said teleport off, as the Future Sight is going to hit him. So losing that momentum and losing that regen is really unfortunate. Again, things not going our way at this point. Pult comes in, takes more rocks, which again, very, very nice for me. Togekiss is going to come out next as I do U-turn out. Again, in hindsight, I think Knock was very free right there, right? Because it's either this Togekiss coming in, or something like Shaman Rachi. But at the end of the day, too, I suppose I think my U-turn play is fine, because if Pult stays in, I live a hit, I U-turn out, and then I have to go into Rillaboom to try and revenge it with that, or if he switches, I get into my Victini and I get to force a KO, which is nice. So this next turn, Jirachi is going to come in and is going to be the sack of choice. We hit our Blue Flare that time, we're going to knock it out, which is great. Pult once again comes back out, as I'm going to go hard Rillaboom here. The reason I go hard Rillaboom this turn is because I do live one hit. As long as it's not like a Specs Draco, I do live one hit. That is a Specs Shadow Ball, but I live the Draco, and I can force him out with a Grassy Glide right here. I think he is going to switch out here into the Shaman. I am just going to go for the safe Grassy Glide. In hindsight, I'm really, really, really wishing that I would have gone for a U-turn potentially, but I really didn't feel like I could make the play. And even then, if he's like a Helmet Kiss, which I don't know if we've confirmed or not if he is, we would have taken Chip and died and things like that. Whereas Grassy Glide, at least I can go hard out into Torn this next turn and potentially put myself in a good spot. I still live another Rock Switch in, which is also nice. This is a way of revenging the Dragapult in the back. Panther is going to make a double into Togekiss right here, but again, I feel pretty fine. I can just go ahead and click that Hurricane and knock this guy, or click Hurricane after a taunt and knock this guy out. Panther does make a good play in going for an Air Slash on my taunt as I do U-turn. He shows to be obviously Boots. I'm just trying to get a little bit of regen back on my team, and then I'm going to make the play out into Victini right here, as it does force a KO. I have Blue Flare, knock that thing out. Pult comes out. It's going to knock me out, as right here, he is going to go into his Togekiss. I am going to knock off his heavy-duty boots right here, and I just really have to hit this Hurricane. I am going to miss, and we're going to unfortunately lose this game. Now, in hindsight, I think I still did lose to Pult. I think Specs Draco pretty much knocked me out. It would have at least given me a shot to not get hit by Draco, but it's still very unfortunate. I do think that, like, if my Victini hit that Blue Flare earlier in the game, I have much more momentum and tempo on my side, as he has one less sack into that Victini, and which means his Pult might have taken one more switch in, or might have taken another hit, or something else would have died, and I would have had enough pieces or enough sacks to win the game. So it's unfortunate. It was a really close game, and it was cool getting to play Panther again. And obviously, even in his absence, he's still a very, very good player, and he was able to beat me here, and with a really, really cool squad here. And Specs Pult just went and did the dirty on me. So GG's to Panther. He played really well in this game. It was a bit unfortunate how things ended up turning out there at the end, due to that Blue Flare miss earlier in the game, but that's Pokemon, man. Like, you can get as upset as you want, but there's nothing that's really going to stop that, unfortunately. But yeah, that being said, we got to just move on to week 4. Alrighty, guys, week 4. Jeez, I already forgot. I'm literally recording it. Rolls around, and we're going up against Minikis. He's got a pretty scary squad there. Now, that is a Mega Aerodactyl, not a Mega Alakazam. Thank to God. That wouldn't be fun to play Mega Zam. But the squad we're going up against is right above us: Skuntank, Alakazam, Raikou, Zygarde, Aerodactyl, and the Jellicent. Biggest threats to me, I'd say probably like a Life Orb Jam could be pretty scary. Psychic, Focus Blast, and Shadow Ball is pretty scary if he gets predictions right and plays right. Mega Aerodactyl can get out of hand very, very fast. It's a Pokemon that very much so scares me, especially with the team that we ended up bringing. I think my team in general was okay against Mega Aero, but the team we brought was pretty weak to it. And Raikou can be really, really annoying as well, throwing off Volt Switches and Scalds and Thunderbolts and things of the sort. So we got to be very careful around those threats. I'm not too worried about Zygarde. I'm not too worried about Skuntank and Jellicent and things like that either. But yeah, I think we have a pretty cool squad this week. We can go ahead and show it on the screen. And you have a standard Torn.exe where Hurricane, Knockoff, U-turn, Taunt. Again, really does well in this game. His flying resists on the squad are going to be Raikou and the Mega Aerodactyl, which don't appreciate taking hits with hazards up. If we get up rocks, they're not going to appreciate it or have a good time. And especially Raikou, man, that thing comes in, even if it's like an AV set, I knock, I U-turn, rocks are up. The next couple times I click Hurricane, it's very, very free. And then Taunt is great for things like Jellicent, Zygarde, stuff like that. Even Skuntank to an extent. Next up, we have our win con this week. We're actually not bringing Rest Talk Tar, we're bringing DD3 attacks, Crunch, Rock Slide, Ice Punch, and Dragon Dance. Pretty darn fast. If you get up 2 DDs, the game is pretty much over. This Pokemon is incredible, and I know that sounds like a lot asking for 2 DDs, but honestly, it is a possible thing, depending on how we position ourselves and how he plays, or even just one and the Mega Arrow is gone, and we know relevant Scarfers and things like that. We could be in a pretty good spot here. Dual Stabs plus Ice Punch hits this team incredibly hard, and it should be enough to win the game, hopefully. Then we have a Scarftini, where V-Create, U-Turn, Bull Strike, and Glaciate. I wanted a Scarf for faster than a +1 Zygarde, and this gives us that. Now, I know we are jolly and physical, but with just a little bit of investment, we should 2-hit KO Zygardes and at least be able to lower its speed to where I can't set up any more or get any more faster than +1, or at least chip it down, put in Rage of Rillaboom, things like that, which is great. And other than that, he doesn't appreciate the combination of our moves. It also outspeeds Shazam, which is great, and can soft switch in on Psychics and Focus Blast. We just kind of have to not switch in on that Shadow Ball. Then, Choice Band, Rillaboom Baby. We're very, very bulky this week just due to how speed tiers worked out in this matchup. Where Grassy Glide, U-Turn, Knockoff, and Super Power does really, really solid in this game. And Grassy Glide is a menace against this team. His real switch-in is only that Skuntank. And if we can get rid of that Skuntank, knock off a helmet, just U-Turn, chip it down, kill it with something else, we just Grassy Glide through the end game. So that's another very, very viable win con and a great, great breaker in this game, in all honesty. Great for, like, DD Mega Arrow, as well as, like, a Calm Mind Raikou or something like that in an endgame. Then we have an Assault Vest looking. We're very, very offensive, but we are AV. It's a great check to the Zam right there, as well as just being a good offensive menace. Scald, Future Sight, Ice Beam, Shadow Ball hits his team very, very hard. Things like Skuntank, if he wants to switch in, that's amazing for me, because that means he's taking a Scald and a potential burn, which really helps out in that Rillaboom endgame. We have Ice Beam to nuke things like Zygarde. We have Shadow Ball to hit the Jellicent, Future Sight just to throw up in the air, and yeah, we're just going to do lots of damage to the Slowking. And then we have a pretty interesting lead Steelix for Custap Berry with Sheer Force, High Horsepower, Stealth Rock, Ice Fang, and Crunch. The reason that we're Sheer Force over Sturdy with the Custap Berry is because Crunch does get us a 2-hit KO on Jellicent if we are Sheer Force with an Adamant Nature, and we should outspeed No Speed Jellicents, and I think it would be really cool to be able to 2-hit KO that guy. Custap is going to be great. Adamant Max Attack Ice Fang to a Zygarde is incredible, and we should live most hits from everything, minus Zam and Specs Raikou. Those are the only leads that really just super threaten us, so Rocks into a strong attack will be really, really clutch as a lead, hopefully, if all things end up, going well here. Okay, that being said, we can go ahead and jump on into the battle itself. We, like I said, are going to lead off with our Steelix, and we do see a Raikou. Now, this is an interesting situation. Like I said, I live any hit from this Raikou unless he is Choice Specs Scald. Choice Specs Scald is the only move that can hit me. One, I think Specs is a little bit interesting. Two, I can be Sturdy, so I don't think there's much of a reason for him to make this play. Three, I can be Assault Vest. I can be Pasho. There's so many different things I can do to not die to this Raikou. So I really don't think he's going to take the risk of staying in this first turn, especially being that he has a Jellicent in the back that very much so should check any standard Steelix very well. So in my head, it's like, word, free rocks, easy money. He is going to lead off with his Raikou, though, and you're going to see he is going to stay in Scald. He's just going to kill me. So this Specs Raikou, and he just said, you're not Sturdy, you're not Pasho, and you're not Spadef. And you're gonna die, because I think Spadef definitely lived too, which is definitely interesting. I'm gonna go Rillaboom here, and at least hope he's gonna switch this time, which thankfully he does. He's gonna go out into that Skuntank. I got a very, very free knockoff off. It is Helmet, but again, this is amazing for me, because now I don't have to worry about taking Helmet every time I come in, and I throw off super free Grassy Glide. This is not a very good long-term Rillaboom check, as he's gonna make the double out into Zygarde on my Torn. I'm just gonna taunt this thing. No shenanigans will occur. He clicks Crunch. I'm not 100% sure why he's Crunch. Maybe for Slowking, but I figured Skitter Smack would be a little bit better as it hits my Ground Resist and Torn, and then the rest of my team just dies to arrows. So I'm not 100% sure as to why Crunch was the bring, but he is going to make the pivot out into his Raikou, get his Specs knocked off, which is nice. We're at least able to kind of slow this thing down now. I'm going to U-turn, go on to Victini, as I can't live any hit from this thing, and, potentially threaten it out. He's going to make the Zygarde play this time, which is, again, completely fine with me. I'm going to get some leftovers back, U-turn out on the Zygarde, and just go out into my Slowking, as I do know that I can live any 2 hits from a Zygarde. It's going to Crunch, but this is completely fine with me. I'm just going to throw off a big Future Sight. He makes the play staying in. Again, Ice Beam would have done a lot of damage, potentially killing him. It probably didn't kill, like, a fatter Zygarde, to be fair, but, like, then this Pokemon's dead, but he is going to throw off a big Coil right here, which is definitely interesting. I knock off his item, which shows to be a Chesto Berry, so he's going to be Crunch, Coil, Rest, 1,000 Arrows, Chesto Berry, which is great, because now we don't have to deal with that anymore. As right here, he is just going to continuously click Crunch here, which is definitely interesting. I do miss my Hurricane, but that comes with the territory of using Torn, as he is going to make a rest play. I make a pivot into Rillaboom so that I can U-turn out or kill him with a Glide if he decided to attack me, but I am going to U-turn as he does rest, and being that he's not Chesto anymore, you can't wake up, I do force him out, or at least do kill him or something of the sorts. I'm going to get some regen back with my Slowbro, I think is, my Slowking is my play. I get off a huge Ice Beam on this Skuntank. Again, 32% is nothing to scoff at, which is amazing for me. Make the pivot into Torn on the Skuntank as he goes Zam, but again, this is just a free U-turn for me, so I'm not losing much from this. And despite having that really bad turn 1 for me, I'm in a pretty good position right now. So I'm going to be able to throw off a Future Sight as the Skuntank comes in. He's going to make the double on a Raikou. Lots of doubles. If you were able to get up hazards, I think I would be in a much worse spot, but being that he just hasn't, his only hazards that he brought on this team were on Arrow and it hasn't come in yet, these doubles just haven't mattered, really, in the grand scheme of things. Into like regen, things like that, you really do need to have some kind of hazard support and pressure and things like that to get in your breakers and make these strong doubles and things like that. Like the doubles, they make sense, but he's not forcing any progress. I throw up a Future Sight and then a Scald on the Raikou this next turn just to knock it out. I'm AV. I absolutely eat this thing up, being that it's not Specs anymore. And I'm going to get most of his health back right here, as he is going to go into the Zam. I do live a hit from there, so I'm just going to be able to throw off a Shadow Ball and break this thing's potential sash, which is great. I make a mid-ground into Torn. I lived a Psychic. I lived a Shadow Ball, and it covered him going for a Focus Blast right here. Plus, Tar's my win con, so we're going to be very careful about that guy. And it looks very attainable to win with Tar against this team, especially because, like, while I might not outspeed Mega Arrow at +1, I don't take that much damage from it, if that makes any sense. So I am going to go ahead and make the play of U-turning, killed Zam, gets me momentum. I'm going to go Tar right here. We haven't really seen an item yet, so I am going to scout for like Colbert, and he should just live a Crunch from here in general. Make the play back out into Torn just to scout for the Will-O-Wisp, things like that. He goes back out into Zygarde. He's only been asleep for a turn, so I'm able to go back out into my Slowking. I throw off just another Ice Beam right here, as why not throw off another Ice Beam, right? I think this next turn I'm going to pivot out. More regen. As you do with regen, he's going to Strength Sap, get a little bit healthier, which definitely makes sense, which is nice. And I think I am just going to knock off right here, right? Yeah, I just knock off. He makes a good play going out into Skuntank, so he doesn't lose his item right there. I miss my Hurricane again, as he is going to Poison Jab me. No poison, though, which is great. I would have 2-hit KO'd there with, like, the Hurricane into U-turn, but right here I make a bit of a blunder. I wouldn't have been in this position if I hit the first Hurricane, but again, that's Hurricane. What are you going to do with Torn, right? So I get him down here to 7% with my Hurricane, and right here I'm like, word, I'm all good to go. I just U-turn, I kill him, I get my regen back. Torn is still phenomenal in this game, right? Losing it is a pretty bad thing for me. But he reveals a Sucker Punch, and Sucker Punch plus Aftermath is actually going to take out my Torn, which is really, really bad for me, and honestly just a dumb oversight on my end. Like, just a really, really dumb play for me. I am going to go down that turn, as he is going to go out into this Jellicent. This Jellicent is much more annoying without my Torn here to potentially taunt it and wear it down. As I do click Bolt Strike in on this, Jellicent, he takes a ton of damage. I'm going to make a double out, expecting a Zygarde to come in into my Slowking, which is great. Again, just throwing off a very free Shadow Ball on the switch into the Jellicent. Kind of making a little bit more of a ballsy reads right here, as he is going to go ahead and go for the Strength Sap, but due to me just not having, what do you call it, any attack, it's not going to do that much. He goes for an Ice Beam here, and he gets a Freeze. And this really kind of slows down the game and puts me in a little bit of a precarious situation, because now I have to Scald to not be sleeping anymore, and I need my Slowking in this endgame. It's incredible at this point. I live a +1 hit from Zygarde, I revenge it with Ice Beam, I live a hit from Arrow, I check the Zam, and I beat this thing, because obviously he doesn't have a Ghost move to hit me if he clicked Ice Beam right there. He was baiting a Freeze. So I am going to have to Scald right here, and Minika should know that. He should Strength Sap, which he makes the smart play right there, and he is going to go ahead and get a little bit of health back, as I Scald to wake up right here, which again, a little bit annoying, because this Jellicent is much healthier and not dead like it should have been, but the Zygarde is going to come out next. He's going to wake up right here. I believe just go for a Crunch, 36%, doesn't kill me. I go for an Ice Beam, only does 62, showing he's very Spadef. Also showing me that he's not very offensive in general, so I elect to make the play of right here, going into my T-Tar. The reason I go into my T-Tar on the ground type is because 1,000 Arrows shouldn't kill me from here, and even if he does go for 1,000 Arrows, it's not going to do all that much, because I am pretty bulky on my T-Tar. If he goes for Crunch and 1,000 Arrows, I live. If he goes for Koya, I live, and if he rests and chokes, which is like a big, big choke, I win the game, basically. So I'm going to make the T-Tar play. As you're going to see, he does end up crunching right here. Sorry. It only does 7. I'm going to Mega Evolve and just Dragon Dance up. I actually have the potential to live 2,000 Arrows from here, but he does just go for a rest right here. And that just seals the game, because now I can get up a second DD, and I win. There is no stopping. I just DD, what do you call it, 3 times. I knock him out with an Ice Punch with 3 DDs. I outspeed a Mega Aerodactyl. I also kill with an Ice Punch so we don't have to risk any misses. And then from there, we just clean up with Tar. So look at that. First week, we don't bring DD Tar, and it ends up winning the game. Look at that. Fun stuff. So we are going to win 4-0. Despite some pretty dumb blunders on my end and maybe overplaying early, leaving my Steelix in, assuming no specs. But I guess I don't really have a good switch into Scald specs, or Spec Scald at the beginning of the game either. The Torn play was just really dumb on my end, but we're at least able to walk away with a 4-0, which I am happy with. So, yeah, it's going to be week 4. We're 3-1. Let's move on to week 5. Alrighty, week 5 or whatever it is rolls along, and we're going up against Beazle. You can see he has a pretty terrifying squad up here, particularly that Deoxys speed and that Urshifu Rapid Strike he's been using really well all season. But then he has sets like Gliscor. Miltank is very annoying. Weezing is a good check too. Rillaboom, it's a great check to Rillaboom. In fact, he has a great Rillaboom matchup in general with 3 of his Mons. 2 of his Mons potentially being unaware. Weezing really checking it. But the other 3 are pretty weak to it, so we'll kind of talk about why I brought it there. And then there's a Substrike, and I'm not 100% sure why Substrike ended up coming, but it did end up coming. So we can go ahead and jump into the matchup a little bit, just to show you what we're bringing and all that stuff. We got a Choice Specs Victini. It does really well here. If you saw his team, his Psychic resist is Deoxys, his Fire resist his Urshifu. So Blue Flare in particular is incredibly free. We also have Glaciate to absolutely just rock through that Urshifu. He could be Thick Fat Miltank, but then he's not Sap Sipper for our Urshifu, which is, or for our Rillaboom, which is incredible. Makes that Grassy Glide just a little bit more spammable, which is, again, amazing for us. And then we have U-Turn to obviously grab momentum if we're in a position where we don't necessarily knock something out, but we want to grab some good momentum. Then we actually have a Nasty Plot Taunt. We're a Nasty Plot Taunt this week with Hurricane Heat Wave Nasty Plot. Does really well. Good Stall Breaker this week. Beats things like Gliscor. Beats things like Miltank. Beats things like Weezing. Outspeeds and nukes the, what do you call it? Urshifu unless it's Scarf. And if it's Scarf, I'm not super worried about it. And we'll talk about that as well. Then we have a Spadef Mega T-Tar here, primarily to switch into things like Deoxys and Lift Focus Blast and things like that. We are Crunch Stone to Thunder Wave and Ice Punch. The reason we're Thunder Wave on the set is because if I can catch that Urshifu switching in hard and aggressively as I force out that Deoxys with like a Crunch or something like that, I'm in a good spot. Ice Punch is for the Gliscor, and then Crunch Stone hits everything else very hard. So as long as we keep this somewhat healthy for Deoxys, we should be in a pretty okay spot. Then we have a Choice Band Rillaboom, which again seems weird with 2 immunities and a Weezing, but outside of those Pokemon, which Weezing, good check, right? But it allows free Victini, it allows free Tornadus, things like that to really shine. So I think my team really exploits Weezing well. And then the Miltank and Substrika do not appreciate switching into me whatsoever. Maybe I should have been Superpower over High Horsepower in hindsight. High Horsepower is mostly for like a neutralizing gas Weezing, but in reality, he probably shouldn't be neutralizing gas in this matchup. I guess he can be for my region, but my region all beats him besides Mienshao. And he has a really good Mienshao matchup, so I wasn't bringing that, to be completely honest. So he probably should have been Levitate, which means I probably should have been Superpower just to hit that Miltank very hard. But regardless, getting U-Turn out on Miltank, a Choice Band U-Turn nonetheless, is going to be very clutch for us as we're going to chip that thing down. And then once things like Zebby is gone and Miltank is gone, which again, I didn't really prep for the Zip Strike, I'll be 100% honest. And then the Weezing is gone. The last 3 really don't appreciate it, and having something fast, or something that can out-prioritize and, you know, revenge that Urshifu and that Deoxys is really important to me. So I think it'll do well here. Then we have a physically defensive Rocky Helmet Slowking, Scald Future Sight, Teleport, and Slack Off. It is mainly for that Urshifu, in case it wants to, you know, be Scarf or Banned. That can be really scary for us, so chipping that thing down with Helmet is going to be paramount. If it's Scarf, it doesn't break though. If it's Banned, we have a lot of things to potentially deal with it and outspeed it, as well as revenge it and things like that. Then lastly, we have a pretty Spadef Steelix, just High Horsepower, Ice Fang, Stealth Rock, and Gyro Ball. Does well in the matchup. It's a solid rocker, and pivots in a lot and deals with a lot. Sheer Force, Iron Fang, or Ice Fang is nice for things like Gliscor as well, which is cool. And yeah, now we can go ahead and jump right back into the game itself. Let's go ahead and start it off. I am going to lead off with my Slowking into the Substrika, which is a bit unfortunate, but I feel pretty comfortable living any hit this thing wants to go for. It's very weak from the special side, and I have a Slowking, so I have a lot of Spadef, and I'm physically defensive, so if he wants to Wild Charge, he's basically dead turn 1, and I'm okay with taking that damage and switching out. As you see, Thunderbolt pops there. I'm not even at risk to a crit, and I teleport out just in case he wanted to Volt. Get into my Steelix for free. and I'm just going to get up my rocks as it's going to be paramount, and again, chipping everything down. As the Gliscor is going to U-turn out, I wanted to aggressively Ice Fang on a potential rocks from him, get off a lot of damage, plus EQ's not doing that much to me, especially for more defensive sets, and it punishes a Sword Dance or something like that. Plus, I don't have a great switch into it. Next up, I'm going to go Slowking on this Miltank as he is going to start cursing up, and I love playing Curse Miltank. This thing is pretty scary. I'm going to Scald and Burn it, but you're going to see that's not super lucky for me, I guess, because since he is going to P a Facade variant. As I throw up a Future Sight right here, and in my head I'm like, okay, we got to save our Slowking. I'm going to go ahead and teleport out, just so I can save it for the Urshifu a little bit later. Get into my Victini with a Future Sight in the air, we should be able to Psychic plus Future Sight and knock him out. Unfortunately, he shows the Facade and does 97%, which is a ridiculous amount of damage. Thankfully, we live. I'm not sure if that was a roll and we're able to knock out the Miltank, but that could have gotten real scary real fast. So Future Sight really coming up clutch there. The Psychic spam in general really coming up clutch there. So, yeah. Next up, Victini is going to be forced out by the Substrike. I still do want to save it, as it does exploit things like the Wheezing and the Gliscor very well as a non-Aqua Jet Urshifu and things like that. And it's at least a sack in the back, and I don't really feel like I need to sack this. I'm going to make the pivot into Steelix, expecting potentially like a fighting move, like a low kick into my Tyranitar, and I don't want that to happen, especially because I want it healthy for Dio. Whereas I know that my Steelix can check this thing well with its Spadef and things like that, even if it is going to rock out with like an Overkick or something like that, because this Mon just isn't strong. His Double Kick is going to come out, and it does 14%. And I talked to Beazle after, and he was like, damn, bro, I didn't know it got Low Kick. And I said, man, this thing gets 3.5 moves, Low Kick being one of the usable ones. How did you not know it got Low Kick? So I got Double Kick to myself, and again, I'm not complaining. It's good for me. Low Kick would have done chunks of steel. It's like a good 30% probably. So I will always take it eating that up and only taking 14 or something like that, which is pretty darn funny. So the Urshifu is going to come out here. I'm going to go into my Slowking. He does Surging Strikes and reveal to be the Protective Paths, which is good information. I know that he's not choice. I know that he is not like or banned or anything like that, and I know that I can outspeed and revenge him with a lot of my team. So right here, I'm going to come on my Victini, and we're going to be into this Gliscor. This turn, I kind of make a little bit of an overplay. In my head, I'm like, okay, he needs to switch, right? Because this Gliscor is actually phenomenal versus me. Offensively and defensively, it's very annoying for my team to try and kill. I really have, like, Taunt Torn, and that's, like, about it. And even then, he can just U-turn out. I have to rely on hitting Hurricanes. In my head, I really didn't think he would stay in and risk this Specs Glaciate because he saw like how much he did before, because then he is, again, easily revenged in range of rocks or just dead depending on his spread. So I went for a Blue Flare. I did 74, so I'm pretty sure my Glaciate would have killed there. He's going to just stay in and knock off, though, which is unfortunate. I am going to go down right there, and this Gliscor is going to be at 39 because of broken, Poison Heal. I go and Rillaboom. Again, I overplay. I figured he might want to save this. He can get a Roost off on Steelix and T-Tar potentially, Torn missing and not having Taunt, but really just Steelix. So I figured he'd want to save it as he had a very free switch into his Wheezing, but no, he does not. I go into Torn here. He's going to U-turn at least, so at least he did not Roost. That's the main really important thing right here, is I am going to go ahead and make a pivot into Rillaboom right here, kind of expecting some kind of fighting move and U-turning out and things like that, but he actually elects to get up Rocks from me. He's not like a setup set, which is also very good to know, or most likely not a setup set. As this turn, I am once again, or I'm just going to knock off this time, knock off this Helmet, off this Wheezing, so now I have free attacks as we go throughout the game, and with Rocks up, this thing is going to start to get whittled down pretty substantially. So, Torn is going to come out here on this Pain Slit, which is, again, very nice. I have a pretty darn free Hurricane here. His Flying Resist is Substrika, so we should be able to hit it hard unless we miss our 73rd Hurricane of the season. Thankfully, I'm no Kirby of the past. I do understand how good Torn is. Let's go back. I do understand how good Torn is, but it is unfortunate to, miss so many Hurricanes and things like that. But it's not a Pokemon, again, that thrives in the sense that, like, it needs to hit Hurricane. So, we're going to Hurricane here. I'm going to make the pivot out into my Steelix this turn, just because I can't hit this thing. I do live in Overheat. I actually should live 2, potentially, but he is going to crit set Overhit. Actually, I don't think I can live 2 if he killed me with a crit, but the crit is a bit annoying. I can't pivot around or anything like that, but realistically, It was my easiest switch. I'm going to go on to T-Tar this turn, now knowing that there's no like weird double kick shenanigans coming around. And Volt Switch is going to do 5% -2 in the sand, which is pretty funny. I am just going to crunch. I could have potentially Thunder Waved, but I wanted to make sure that the Liscor did not come in for free if you wanted to stack that. And I just want to get some damage off on something. And while Urshifu does resist it and only take 19, that plus Rocks plus Sand is really going to add up, bring it down to 34, which is obviously really, really nice, adding up to around 30-ish% instead. Next, Slowking is going to come out here. I am going to eat up the Surging Strikes, and I will be out of range of another one. So what I kind of wanted to do here was go Slowking, pivot Torn on a U-turn, so that my Slowking doesn't just immediately die, and I can still use it to check other things. And I get in my Torn. As the Deoxys is going to come out now, I'm going to make the pivot out Slowking this turn, as we are going to see an Ice Beam pop off. Does 16% and does get a freeze. Now, we do see from that damage that he is a Choice Specs Deoxys, which is, again, very, very interesting. But thankfully, we're going to go ahead and get a Scald off. I think this is like the third game that Slowking's gotten frozen, or the second game in a row, or something like that. Definitely not fun. But regardless, Zebby's going to come out here. I'm going to make the play of hard T-Tar. I'm assuming he's probably going to Thunderbolt, yeah, instead of Volt Switch, because I don't think Volt Switch actually killed from that range. And then he's going to Volt Switch this next coming turn. Still out of range of Double Kick, because I am a Mega Tyranitar, and I have a very, very free Stone Edge, as the Urshifu cannot really come in at this point. I'm going to do a good 38, bring this thing down to 39, and hit another edge, knocking it out, which is awesome. Now we just have the Zebstrika as a potential grass immunity. Other than that, our Rillaboom does clean the game potentially, as I'm going to make the pivot out into Torn on a CC. Nice little mid-ground. He could have also Ice Punch, but I would have lived it in general. But again, we're completely fine with that. He's going to be -1, so because of this, after Aqua Jet, we will knock him out with a Heat Wave, which is just a bit more accurate than our Hurricane, and I wasn't risking that again. Out comes the Deoxys. I am just going to kind of see what he locks into. I'm going to go ahead and click Hurricane. He does go ahead and Ice Beam here. Oh, I didn't know he was Specs yet, actually. Haha, because I went Rillaboom right here. Maybe I did know he was Specs, but I expected him to switch into Striker. Regardless, I'm actually going to click a U-turn here. I think maybe I calc Extra Belt Modest or something like that, or something, because I'm just going to let my Rillaboom die here, which is a bit unfortunate. Not the best strain of plays for me. Maybe I was a little bit tilted, to be completely honest. This was back in November, so it's been a minute, so I don't remember exactly. Maybe I didn't know it's Specs then, and I'm just knowing it's Specs now. My commentary kind of becomes a little bit biased, which is just a flaw in post-comms, unfortunately. But we're going to let her Rillaboom go down there. Part of me did kind of expect him to go Zebstrika. But again, in all reality, I probably should have gone into something like... No, I think I didn't know, and I was just kind of scouting damage, because if he wasn't Specs, he didn't kill me. I killed him with U-turn, and then I won. So, I guess it makes sense. So, he is going to rock with an Ice Beam right here. I am going to kind of spam Slack off for a little bit, just to try and get as healthy as humanly possible for that Zebstrika in the back, as I am just going to spam Scald over and over again after getting some recovers off. I'm going to speed up a little bit. Perfect. This is about as healthy as we can get, and I'm going to knock him out with said Scald. Then out comes the Zebstrika. Again, I live any one hit from this thing pretty easily. It does 56 with that Thunderbolt. I'm going to Scald and get the burn. Now, because of this, if I got the burn, obviously, something I can do is just let this die, go into T-Tar, and kill him, as Thunderbolt doesn't kill me, and neither does Double Kick now that he's burned. But I wanted to try and save a little bit of diff, so you're going to see me kind of play a little bit funky around this right here. I'm going to switch into Mega T-Tar. Again, this game is sealed. Something I want to do is I wanted to make sure this thing dies to Sand plus Burn this next turn right here. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to pivot Slowking on a potential Double Kick. It was kind of a 50-50. I mean, I won regardless either way, but I wanted the extra point of differential. But Beazle does kind of call me out on it, and he does click Thunderbolt on the switch out, knocking me out, but he goes down to Sand and things like that. So we are going to win 1-0 here with Mega T-Tar in the back. And yeah, very, very close one. Pretty hacksy one, unfortunately, but again, that's Pokemon for you, and that's our season for you. But we're still finding ways to win, which is the important thing. We might be getting pretty unlucky, but we're finding ways to win, which is the important thing. But yeah, with that being said, we'll be right back with week 6, I think it is at this point. I don't know. Alrighty, guys, week 6, we're going up against Hugo here. I believe I lost my team for this one. I think it's on my laptop, and my laptop's somewhere in my room. But since the semester for school ended, I don't know where it's at, and I doubt it's charged right now. So, I don't have the team on me, so we're just going to look over the replay for this one. You can see the team that Hugo's rocking with. It almost reminds me, like, it's a very Gen 6, early Gen 7-esque with the squad he's rolling with. He has Clefable, Snorlax, Hoopa Unbound, Manaphy, Infernape, and Jinx of all things. And Jinx is actually a pretty big threat to my team. Its stabs plus Focus Blast can really, really run through me, so you have to be very, very careful about that guy. And yeah, with that being said, we can jump into it. I think, off of memory, I think I have a DD Tar in this matchup. I think I'm Scarf Mienshao, Calm Mind Comfey. There was also like an Amoonguss or something like that, so I'm Calm Mind Storm Power. I think standard.exe Slowking. I'm not 100% sure on the set. I might have been Banded or Scarf Victini. I'm thinking Banded based on something that happens in this game, calc-wise. And then just standard.exe Torn. Main win con is going to be that Comfey. If we can chip down that Lax, we just win with it. So that's going to be the main plan, to kind of win with that guy. Okay, so we're going to lead off with Torn, as you do. Draft League player lead off Torn. I'm going to click knockoff on this Infernape, but lift any Scarf hit. He's actually going to be a Focus Sash lead Rock set. Again, completely fine. I have a very free Hurricane. He does not have a Flying Resist. Snorlax is going to come out, so I'm just going to elect to knock it off. Get rid of its item, whether that be a berry, leftovers, whatever it is, Chesto Berry, whatever it might be, as we do see a Choice Band, as he's going to Body Slam, not to a KO, but get a para. And this is kind of the first of many unfortunate events that happened throughout the course of this game. Torn faster than everything was incredible this game. And again, that's the risk I run, staying in on a Body Slam. But again, knocking off a Lax in front of with your Torn is usually a pretty smart idea. So I figured it was nice, and I didn't really have great Body Slam pivots in general, so I don't necessarily think I made a bad play. I do go ahead and make a U-turn out into Slowking, as we are going to see this Lax just go for yet another Body Slam here. And I am an eject button set. I don't remember why in particular. I think it was like for like Infernape, because I was really scared of it and I wanted free momentum on it. But we're going to go ahead and get our regen back, get into our Mienshao, and I'm going to overplay. I'm going to think on a team with a Clefable, you might as well save this for a stack, as I don't really do anything to you. I can't kill you with Poison Jab, so I can't really click that. But he is going to elect to stay in right here. I go into my Slowking as he booms for 70%. This is fine though. I didn't really need Slowking for anything in particular, especially knowing that this is a like Focus Sash, what do you call it? Infernape set. So I'm going to go ahead and sack off my Slowking to this Clefable. I'm going to go into my Victini, and I believe I click Bolt Strike, predicting a potential Manaphy to come in. We're going to knock out the Infernape from 83, showing me that, yes, this thing is for sure banned, I think. Clefable's going to double in on my Torn switch. I was just going to sack it off to the Hoopa, as he is going to go ahead and sub. Oh, I was Safety Goggles this game for the Amoonguss. I remember now. It's all coming back to me. But lots of fun things happen right here, right? He shows sub, and then he's going to Moonblast. I don't see leftovers. This leads me to believe he's Life Orb. I can't confirm that because of the crit, but 99% sure he is going to be Life Orb if he knocks out my Torn from there. But the para definitely does suck, and I'm put in a really precarious spot, right? Because this thing definitely has coverage for Victini. After another Rock Switch, and I definitely just die. And my Victini is very strong. It's one of the Pokemon that can live a Jinx hit as well from this point. So I decided to go into my Tyranitar, which is pretty offensive, but can always live a hit. I'm going to drop a big Heavy Slam right here. 63 from a Moonblast from a Clefable is a lot of damage to a Mega Teaser. So again, really confirming that he's a Life Orb variant. But this next turn, I'm going to make a call and go for a Crunch here, expecting the Manaphy to pivot in on the Heavy Slam for free, which is great because we get it down to about 50%. It shows to be leftovers. We're going to die to a Surf, but we had to stay in an attack in case he wanted to, you know, try and set up a Calm Mind or whatever it might be, as this is no Tailbow. Next, though, I'm pretty comfortable with this position, as I am going to go into Comfey as Jinx comes in right here. And it's going to take a little bit of sand. I'm just going to throw off a Draining Kiss, see what this thing wants to go for, as he goes for a Sweet Kiss, meaning to be Lovely Kiss. So he brought the wrong Kiss move, and he confused me. And I actually never ended up checking this as, like, what the sleep or the confusion rule was in this league. I didn't really, like, throw too much of a fit about Sweet Kiss in particular, but this is pretty annoying, right? As he is going to Ice Beam me this turn, and then freeze me. This is the third freeze. Third time this season, third game in a row, I got frozen. And this time it's on a Pokemon that cannot Scald and Unthaw itself, as it does show to be Life Orb. I won with this thing, by the way, as I am going to wake up and Synthesis, thankfully. But he gets off a very free Nasty Plot. I would have just 3-8 KO'd him. I'm going to Draining Kiss here. It should be fine, except I get crit. Which is also great. Again, the Comfey just won at this point, guys. I can't make this kind of stuff up. I'm going to go into Victini. I'm going to U-turn, I suppose. But this game, it's not looking great for your hero. He's going to go Clefable. I have to U-turn right here, and this Victini's just going to die to this Moonblast. There's not much really stopping it. Again, Life Orb Clef is still very, very strong with that Magic Guard Life Orb. And then I'm going to go to Manchow and just unfortunately lose the game. If I like Giga crit close combat, or if I crit close combat, I think I could have won. Because I'm pretty sure it'll goes Hoop Up, but that's Pokemon, man. I'm kind of glad I didn't have the team for this one, because then I would have to put more time into this game. Again, very, very hacksy one. This one, like the one with Panther, there was like little things here and there, but this was like super, super cheesy hacksy, which, again, it happens. But I'm not too worried about it. It's only our second loss of the season. The team's functioning well, and we're still in a very commanding spot going forward. So we just gotta make sure we're winning our games going forward. But yeah, I'll be right back with that next one. Alrighty, week 7 is bounce back time. We're going against E4 Dan. Sorry, I just totally stumbled over my words. And he has a really cool squad. This reminds me of like my SBT team, because he has 5 Pokemon that I actually had on that team. It's a really cool squad. He's got Zero Aura, Tangrowth, Zapdos, Galar, Slowking Galar, and Seismitoad, which are the 5 that I had. And then he has a Mega Altaria, which actually can be a big, big threat if it's like a special attacking variant. I think like Agility, special Mega Alt can really, really win the endgame if he chips down my Victini and my Slowking. I'm not too big on DD personally here into Steelix. I guess DD actually can do well if my Steelix doesn't end up getting chipped down and things like that. But I think I have things to pressure and things like that. So we can go ahead and show off the squad that we're rocking with. We actually have a very defensive Torn. We didn't need a lot of speed on this set. We're just outspeeding max speed Zapdos. Very, very physically defensive to try and pivot into that thing as well as humanly possible, as well as take hits from the Mega Alt and things like that if it is a physical variant. Or just standard Hurricane, Knock, U-turn, Taunt. Does very, very well in this matchup. Very bulky and very annoying. Then we have a pretty Spadef Steelix. We are Rocky Helmet because I do expect to get knocked off by that Zero Aura, and Sheer Force because I do expect to not have Sturdy the entire game. But we're Spadef so that we can live like Focus Blast and things like that from the Zero, as well as, you know, deal with it potentially with a high horsepower. We have Toxic, the Toxic It, Slowking, the Seismitoad, Altaria, the Zapdos, whatever it may be. Dual Stabs plus Stealth Rock is going to be nice too. We have a DD Megatar, very solid win con in this game. Crunch, Ice Punch, Dragon Dance, and Stone Edge. Now, Zera can, I think, potentially, is going to outspeed us at +1, I think, if he creeps for that. As well as, like, a Scarf Zapdos. But other than that, this thing just wins after a DD or does really, really well at the very least. Because I do think that my team very much so pressures things like Tangrowth and Seismitoad and things like that to take a lot of damage. So I'm hoping that DD Tar can come in a little bit later and just click a button. Even if it's not Dragon Dancing and it's throwing off a strong Adamant Crunch on a Glow King, it's going to be really nice in my opinion. Then we have a Choice Band Rillaboom, as you do. We have Grassy Glide, U-turn, Knockoff, and Woodhammer. We are Adamant this week, which is awesome. He does not have a great switch into this thing. Really, the best thing he has for it is going to be that Tangrowth, but we just U-turn out on that guy. Zapdos, even though it does resist our Grass Stab, it does not appreciate taking Grassy Glides, banded ones, and neither does an offensive Mega Altaria either. And if he's more defensive, that's fine. Again, this is a great facilitator as well. We grab U-turns into our next member for free. You're going to be Choice Specs Victini. Look at Spec Psychic and Blue Flame versus his team. He does not have a Spec Psychic switch in. Like, at all. It just simply does not exist. Especially if we can get some chip on that Slowking, or we can grab some momentum on that guy. I'm pretty sure we can grab some really, really good momentum throughout this game. Rack up Hazard and Poison Chip from Steelix, and knock off some items with Torn. Then lastly, we have a Fizdef Slowking. Very simple. It's our best pivot into G-Zap. It doesn't appreciate like a banned Brave Bird. It's just gonna 2-hit KO us. But other than that, we do take on its hits pretty darn well. Okay, that being said, we can go ahead and jump on into this guy right here. We are going to go ahead, again, as a Draft League player, lead off with Torn. In turn 1, I am going to taunt. I don't want to be toxic. I don't want to let rocks up or anything like that. If he wants to attack me, that's whenever. Scald, again, I'm okay with being Scald, right? Not the biggest deal in the world, because he goes hard Soaking. And this is a big turn. This is massive for me, in fact. We do 40% with the knock, and the damage isn't what matters. The fact is that he gives me the Assault Vest right here means that my Victini, every single time it comes in, if I position it correctly, is going to knock something out. Every single time, no matter what. So I am going to U-turn, as I don't really beat this thing 1v1 super, super well, and I don't want to take a hit. I'm going to go Slowking, as it gives me a very free teleport, and that's going to give me just an absolute nuke on something if he stays in. He does make the pivot of Hard Zera, but that gives me my Steelix, and that gives me some free rocks, which is, again, absolutely amazing. He's going to go into a Seismitoad, and expecting a rock or something like that, I'm going to go ahead and just throw off a big Toxic on this guy. Then I'm going to pivot Torn, expecting ground move, or even a water move like the Liquidation coming out here. It's not going to do that much because we are pretty darn physically defensive. I do U-turn out right here, go into my Rillaboom, And again, this is what I'm kind of talking about with that U-turn core with Rillaboom really facilitating Victini, especially in this matchup. Right here, the only switching he really has is going to be that Tangrowth right here, which is going to be amazing for me. He could have gone Zapdos as well, but him going Tangrowth right here allows me a free Victini, and that's a KO with Psychic. Nothing else to say about it. There's quite literally nothing he can do about it. He's going to go ahead and sack off the Seismitoad. I'm going to do a good 64% to that guy, which is a ton of damage right there. Victini's going to pick up the kill the next turn, which is great. We're slowly getting back a little bit of health with our grassy terrain as well, which is really nice for more rock switch-ins and things like that. As this turn, he goes into Mega Altaria, which I found very interesting. I figured he'd go Zapdos. So Zapdos would have forced me out because I don't want to lose his Tidal Scarf, and this thing is so good. Or Zeraora, and thrown off a very free knockoff or something like that. Whereas Mega Altaria, especially in the grassy terrain, it can't really do anything to me. It can go for a Dragon Dance here as it lives a hit, and then EQ and threaten me out the next turn. But even then, I'll just pivot somewhere else. Probably Rillaboom, probably Torn actually. Torn seems a little bit safer, and then I can U-turn, knock it out with Glide, something like that. But this thing doesn't really threaten me right now in the terrain, as I'm going to do 65 with Psychic. Earthquake only does 34 at that point, so Victini's he's just massacring. He just wants all the kills, please. Slowking's going to be the pivot right here, but this doesn't have an AV anymore. Good night. That's a 2-hit KO. And he's probably like the only Pokemon that could have taken a hit, actually, is he's actually going to go back into his Altaria and go down here. Next up, Tangrowth is going to come out, but this does not live. It just simply does not live. Slowking would have forced me out again as well, but we're going to knock it out. And at this point, I know I just said Zapdos would have forced me out, but at this point, what do I need Victini for, right? Everything that I super exploit is kind of gone. There's a Zapdos, which at best is a speed tie. Zero, which knocks me out after rocks, guaranteed. It probably knocks me out from here, potentially, with knockoff. And then Slowking, which regens out of range. So I have no reason to stay, to switch out. At this point, I'm okay with kind of baiting a speed tie, maybe winning it, or just catching him being over-aggressive or something of the sort. So, again, we're just going to stay in on this U-turn. Sorry, my phone just went off. I wonder who texted me. We're just going to Psychic as the Slowking comes in. It would have killed the Zera too, and we're going to knock out the Slowking. So, again, no reason for me to overplay at this point. Zapdos is going to come out. I could have potentially tried to preserve the 6-0 and pivot it out there, but again, there's no need to at this point. He is going to go into his Zero, but again, I have a very free U-turn. Even if he did Brave Bird there and called me on it, I was completely fine. As Rillaboom is going to be able to come out, if Zapdos comes in, it gets 2-hit KO'd, and this guy is going to drop to a Grassy Glide, an Adamant Band Grassy Glide, and then Zapdos is going to come out. I'm going to save some diff going into Slowking here. He is going to drop a Thunderous Kick, and again, if he was like a non-choice, if he was like a choice variant, he's locked in, and I actually lived a Brave Bird from there as well due to my Fizz Def, and yeah, we're just going to kill it with a Scald and walk away with a nice bounce back 5-0 victory, which is huge after the very cheesy Haxie game that we played against Hugo the week prior. I believe this brought us to 5-2 on the season, and clinched us for playoffs as well, which is nice. This is a 10-week league, regular season-wise, so it's a long one. So we got a little bit of ways to go, and we want to secure as good of a playoff spot as humanly possible, but it's always a nice weight off your shoulders knowing that you have secured playoffs. But yeah, I'll be right back with next week. Alright, next up we have week number, oh my gosh, is it 8? 9? I think it's 8 against Corey. Really cool guy. I love Corey to death, and he's got Meloetta on his team. So you know it's a throwback league when Corey's got a Meloetta on his team. Probably AV Charge Beam if we know him. But he's having a solid season. He's got a pretty cool squad. You can see he's rocking out here with the Celesteela, Abomasnow, Meloetta, Landorus, the Grimmsnarl, and the Trevenant. Now, as for our team, we're actually bringing a pretty cool team this week. We can go ahead and show it off. We are just standard Torn. We actually don't have Taunt this week, or Knockoff, which is interesting. Corey also had Webs on his team in Slurpuff, so I really want to defog on this squad, and that is what Tornadus is here for, to defog away those if those do end up coming. But honestly, our dual stabs really rip through him offensively. Like, it does really well, and we can always U-turn out in disadvantageous positions. Nothing really OHKOs us either, so it does really well in this matchup. We have a DD Megatar, which we've kind of shifted away from fatter T-Tars and moved more onto like more offensive D-Dance T-Tars towards the end of the season for our win con, and it does really well here. Again, Landorus is a bit iffy, but it doesn't appreciate taking an Ice Punch after we DD because we'll be a neutral. Other than that, his whole team just gets rocked by DD Tar. Stone Edge is going to blow through Celesteela after a little bit of chip, and then Crunt's Ice Punch hits everything incredibly hard. We also have a Choice Specs 15. Again, my absolute favorite set this season so far. We've been spamming Specs, and it does amazingly here. The Specs Blue Flare Switchman does not exist on Corey's team, so we just have to position it well, and it'll pick up a KO. Simple as that. We also have, again, a Fizz Def Slowking. It's here to pivot in on things like the Landers, as well as the Celesteela. Corey also had a Komodo on his team, so it really does help with that. And then we have a Steelix for Choppleberry. This is, again, for the Slurpuff if you wanted to be like a Belly Drum variant that could fall spin scary. So I wanted the Choppleberry to always be able to eat that thing up. We're just Dual Stab, Stealth Rock, Roar. Pretty simple stuff. We can actually go with Earthquake this week because we're not bringing Rillaboom into Landers Celesteela. I know, crazy to think, but we're not bringing it this week. And then we are rocking out with Archeops, which is actually going to be our lead this game. We are rocking out with Power Herb, Meteor Beam, Special Archeops with Meteor Beam, Heat Wave, Air Slash, and Rock Polish. Alrighty, with that being said, we can kind of go ahead and just jump on into this guy. Like I said, we are going to lead off with our... Just kidding. We're not lead Archeops. We're lead Slowking. Reason being is something like a Landers lead seems very likely, and honestly, anything other than Grimmsnarl Trevenant is a pretty free Slowking on my end, and a pretty free teleport, that fact. Maybe I Scald the Celesteela, but other than that, I can pretty freely teleport and, you know, get out of there pretty freely. Trevenant is going to come in. It's going to first go Rocky Helmet. I do just Scald, actually, sorry. Just trying to get some chip on something, maybe get a burn. Trevenant is going to reveal the Leftovers and Protect, but we do teleport out of there. Archeops is going to come in, and this is where we get to click the funny button. We are going to Air Slash here, do a decent chunk, and then this next turn, just Meteor Beam and knock this guy right out, doing a ton of damage in the meantime, which one is going to put us in a great position because Landers is gone, and I don't have a ground resistance on the team that I ended up bringing, so that's amazing for me. Two, I get Heat Wave damage on Celesteela, plus 1 Heat Wave damage off if we were to hit. Unfortunately, we do not, and we're going to take a ton of damage from this Flash Cannon right here. He is going to pivot Abomasnow, as it will knock us out with the Hail, because this is not Gen 9 Snow, and it will live a hit because of our Defeatist. So we're able to chip that thing down pretty considerably, which is nice. But yeah, we're going to go ahead and go into our Victini and just U-turn on out. I didn't really want to let in the Meloetta for free, and T-Tar let me set up the sand and things like that. So Grimmsnarl is going to come out next. He is going to reveal the Prankster Bulk Up as I actually try to Dragon Dance in his face, and this is not super advantageous for me. I'm actually going to make the hard Victini play here as he continues to bulk up, and he will bimp my Megatar on his own, and I'm going to Trick. Now, in hindsight, I probably could have used Steelix for this purpose and still have my Victini to blow through this, and honestly outspeed and U-turn on the Meloetta, putting it in range of Blue Flare. But I really kind of panicked in the moment and said, oh no, I need to trick this thing and get rid of its items so that it can't set up and beat me. But I had a Roar Steelix, and I was Choppled too, so it wasn't like Drain Punch was going to break through me. He never OHKO'd me from full from that point, so realistically Steelix was always my play. So it was a big throw on my end, but again, you live and you learn. It's not the end of the world. We're going to go T-Tar right here as he is going to be locked into that Darkest Lariat. And I am going to D-Dance up this turn as he does go to Trevenant. We saw that he was Leftovers earlier, and he is going to just drop to this hit. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Selly's going to come out next. Unfortunately, we are going to miss our first Stone Edge, as he is going to Flash Cannon us, as this next one does 56. You see, that would have 2-hit KO'd, provided we hit that first one. I am going to switch out and save my Tar, as it can do well, obviously, and it's a good Dark Resist for that, what do you call it? Grimmsnarl that is Choice Locked at this point. I can go pretty free Slowking now that I know this is a more defensive Celesteela, and just start throwing off and peppering it with Toxics and things of the sort. Meloetta is going to come out next, as we are going to get a burn on it, and you're going to see that is pretty darn clutch. But realistically, this thing wasn't too big of an issue, because you're going to see this is actually going to be a sub Meloetta, and in my head I'm like, this is odd. I wonder if he's sub Calm Mind. Realistically, this thing can't beat me because of Torn with U-turn, but I do want to scout and, again, obviously not stay in risk, as he does reveal to be Toxic. And you're going to see, because of the burn, it really speeds up this process, but we could always teleport in and out. Slowking into Torn, U-turn, Slowking into Torn. We are a Draft League player, clicking Regenerator and U-turn and teleport button as you do. He is going to knock off right here, knock off my helmet, but that actually just puts him out of range of a sub, which is going to be really, really clutch for me. He Hyper Voices for a good 33, but we're going to be able to chew that up. Go out into Torn, and again, just U-turn out and knock out this Meloetta. Or no, a Heat Wave. Which I guess that makes sense, because then I force in Celesteela. I can just Heat Wave for 48%. He is going to Leech Seed right here, get a little bit of that health back, and then pivot out into the Grimmsnarl. But again, this game is pretty much wrapped up at this point, as Torn is going to be able to U-turn out. I'm going to go into my Steelix just to kind of lock and see what he wants to go for. He does end up going for Lariat, so I believe I am going to just throw out my Rocks. The reason I throw out my Rocks is just to limit these things switch-ins, and no reason not to be completely honest. I suppose I could have doubled as well into Tar, but again, not the end of the world at the end of the day. Okay, next turn he is going to Air Slash, and I am going to teleport out into my Tornadus Therian right here. As right here, Corey in the chat, you guys can't see, he says, who do you want to get the kills? Kind of realizing that, you know, the game is over. And out of the Pokemon on my team, Victini has the most by far so far this season, but Tyranitar is in second place. So I said I want T-Tar, and he told me to switch to T-Tar. So I U-turn out and get into my T-Tar, and I'm going to trust Corey. I'm going to say, you know what, Corey, I think you're actually going to let me get this kill. So I'm going to go ahead and dance up once, and to not BM him, knowing I knock him out the next turn, I believe I am just going to crunch him. Yeah, I do just crunch him. I call him the GOAT in the chat. He gives me a T-Tar kill. And then Selly's going to come out right here, and I'm like, word, I just crunch and knock him out, but Tori Dynamaxes. So we're giving that kill to T-Tar. He doesn't get to Dynamax in the league, and nobody does. But he does Steel Spike and knock us out, I guess. We'll just go Torn, though, and knock him out. But again, that is still a 4-0 victory. Corey was just messing around and things like that, which was obviously all in good fun. But yeah, we're able to kind of clean it up here in the end game with Megatar. I think we played pretty crisply and nicely outside of that Victini trick. I think that was a bit dumb, to be completely honest, on my end. I really shouldn't have made that play. But again, you live and you learn, and we learned there, obviously. So that's going to be this week. I'll be right back with the next. Alright, week 9, we're going up against Tar Heel here, and I don't know if you guys remember, but this was right around the launch of Scarlet and Violet, a week or two after, when I got that really, really, really nasty virus. It might have been the flu, it was at least some very, very nasty cold, and I was out of commission for like a week. I actually played this game while that happened, and because of that, I have no recollection where this team is, or how I got it, or what I did to bring in things like that. I played this game at about 25% brain capacity, and you'll kind of see that with some plays throughout this, but I'm actually pretty proud of how I played this game, considering I was like freaking almost keeled over. I was feeling so bad. So we're going up against General Tar Heel, who's having a great season. He has some great threats. Mega Scizor, Gengar, Feraligatr, which is one I really want to try, Moltres, Rhyperior, and Urshifu Single Strike. He is my favorite offensive core in Draft League from Generation 8, or one of them, in Urshifu Single Strike and Gengar. Mega Scizor is an incredible pairing with those two. Moltres is annoying, Rhyperior is annoying. There's a ton of really scary things on his squad. But yeah, we can go ahead and jump into the battle itself here. We are going to lead off with our Slowking. I believe we're a AV Slowking, or at least a pretty Spadef-ish Slowking, as he's going to actually lead off with his Moltres. And in my head, I'm like, word, great. This is a very free Future Sight. Future Sight puts in a lot of pressure. Future Sight plus Scald in particular. He does not appreciate the combination of the moves. He's actually going to reveal to be a physically invested Brave Birding Moltres. And I do want to keep my Slowking around, so I'm going to pivot into my Megatar here, as he does actually reveal the U-turn. So very, very good play. This physically offensive Moltres putting in work, because it also blocks off anything from taking this Future Sight this next turn, as I do go Comfey, take a crit from a close combat, show me he's definitely not banded, and he's not, what do you call it, either, which is very, very good for me. Now, this next turn, I am just going to throw off a Leech Seed, just so I can live another couple hits on the switch-in from that Urshifu. And again, my goal with Comfey is just to kind of chip it down. I know it doesn't check it long term, but it does chip it. We're going to U-turn out on the Moltres coming in, and this is going to allow me to get into my Megatar, Mega Up, and get at my Stealth Rock, which are going to be very, very important in chipping and whittling down this team, and kind of preventing them from getting up all these, or grabbing so much momentum on me up to this point. I am going to make the pivot into my Rillaboom right here, as a high horsepower does come out my way, as my HP is going to be restored a little bit. I'm going to knock off, expecting the Moltres to come in, or something, or even the Mega Scizor, but he is going to actually just stay in Stone Edge. I believe I just knock off again the next turn, or a U-turn. Yeah, a U-turn in on the Scizor coming, which is obviously nice, and I'm going to be able to get on my Victini, and this is a very, very free Blue Flare. I do throw it off, and I miss my second Blue Flare of the season, which is always very, very funny. And this would have let me gauge a little bit more on his set, and, you know, whether or not I could knock him out. Actually, I don't think I had coverage for Rhyperior on this set anyway, so it's really not the biggest deal in the world, that miss. And I'm going to be able to go onto my Megatar right here. I'm just going to sack it off to a high horsepower. I figured he might want to, you know, save this thing, or what do you call it, Stone Edge and predict me coming in or something like that. But again, not the biggest deal in the world. Next, I'm going to go into my Slowking. I know I can live one hit. I'm going to go throw off a Scald and get the burn, actually. Then pivot out and save it. Get into my Rillaboom for free. He's going to Stone Edge and crit me. That crit did matter. He didn't kill me with Stone Edge. But again, I don't think that my Rillaboom was the most useful thing in the world. And I'm going to be able to get a free switch on my Victini and throw off a big Dazzling Gleam right here. Get a little bit of HP back. Next up, he's going to go into his Moltres, maybe assuming I'm Choice, but I dropped the Thunder on him, baby. We're going to be able to knock out that thing as well. So Victini getting incredible value right here. I'm actually going to make the pivot into my Slowking right here on this Shadow Ball to kind of gauge damage and things like that. If he was Specs, he would have knocked me out, but it shows that he's actually not a boosting item, and he is Black Sludge variant. So I'm going to be able to pivot out into my Torn, eat this hit up pretty nicely, but then get Spadef dropped, unfortunately. And I might not have had U-turn on the set because I'm actually going to hard pivot out here. Get a little bit of regen with my Slowking, but I wouldn't have taken a Sludge Wave from that point. Next up, though, he is going to sub. I am just going to throw off a big Hurricane. He's going to do a nice 49%, so he can knock me out for sure. But he's going to make this pivot into his, what do you call it? Urshifu, maybe expecting my Slowking to come in, but we're going to just knock that thing out right away. Out comes the Feraligatr, and Ben's going to make a really good play here. He's actually just going to hard Liquidation. Probably expecting my Taunt, or maybe even a pivot out into Comfey or something of the sorts, as it is going to completely shut down anything that I want to do in this turn, and he would have lived a Hurricane pretty easily too, so he's going to knock me out and make that call, which is very smart. I'm going to go out into my Comfey, like I said before, and we're just going to Leech Seed once again, trying to whittle this team down, hopefully in range of Victini winning the game, as it can live a Bullet Punch into a Shadow Ball, potentially, depending on rules, from Mega Scizor into Gengar. Right here, I am going to go on my Victini, and I'm going to have to play a little bit ballsy. I needed to hit that Thunder, and I did hit it. That was like a game deciding play right there. I really needed to hit that Thunder, so we go ahead and do that right here. Now, this is a bit of a dumb play right here. I go hard Slowking because I wanted to pivot out and get it in, but realistically, what I should have done is just sacked Comfey right here, because you can see I'm going to kind of be forced to do so anyway, as this does 2 KO, and again, I attribute this to being a buffoon who is very sick. I'm just going to sack off the Comfey right here, just to get 2% less than I had before, basically, is what ends up going down. As this Gengar is going to actually just knock me out the Sludge Wave. Now, I'm pretty sure if he subbed, he just won the game. Or very likely won the game, as he's just going to knock me out the Shadow Ball. If he subbed right here, I didn't have a way of breaking his sub, he would have won the game, like 100%. So I'm going to be able to go into my Slowking now. I'm not going to allow this thing to sub up right here, which is going to be really clutch for me, as I'm just going to Scald once again. The Scizor is going to come in. If I do get a burn on this guy, that'd be phenomenal. It basically seals the game. Fortunately, I don't. I make the hard Victini play, expecting a Roost. If he U-turned there, he also won the game because it put my Victini in range, and then he got in his Gengar. He clicked Shadow Ball to get a kill, and then Scizor came in and U-turned and cleaned up my Slowking, or Gengar cleaned up as well. There was really no out for me at that point if he U-turned, but thankfully he roosted for some reason. We're able to knock out the Mega Scizor, and last up is the Gengar, and thankfully we do get the advantageous rolls, and Victini's going to clean up the game with a couple of blue flares right here on 1% HP. I believe this clinched just like a top 2 seed in playoffs, which is obviously very nice. Yeah, we're able to move on into playoffs with a pretty solid record. No, we still have one more week, so we'll be right back with week 10. Alrighty, last week of the regular season, we're actually going up against Carson here. He has our boy Big Mence on his squad, as well as some big threats like Necrozma, Nidoqueen, Lucario, Mega Kangaskhan, and of course, you can't forget Big Boltund. So he's definitely a really offensive, interesting squad here. We can see what we're rocking out with this week. Again, trying to win to get that top 2 seed guaranteed. It doesn't mean anything, but I got lots of pride and lots of ego, so I really wanted to get it. We're rocking out with Standard Torn. We're Taunt, Hurricane, U-turn, Roost. I wish I had Roost. Taunt, Knockoff, U-turn, Hurricane. We're rocking with Heavy Duty Boots. Victini, very offensive this week with Blue Flare, U-turn, Scorching Sands, and Glaciate. I think he also had a Heatran. Pretty sure he had a Heatran, something like that, that required a Scorching Sands. Then we're very Spadef, Steelix here with Earthquake, Roar, Stealth Rock, and Toxic. We have a Dragon Dance Megatar with Crunch, Stone Edge, Earthquake, and Dragon Dance. If you look at his team, he does not appreciate it at all, but we can still soft check things like Necrozma. Special sets bounce off of us, and I believe we live like a +1 Brick Break from Necro as well, if it's like a DD variant. Then we have a mixed defensive Slowking, mostly Spadef to take on that Nidoqueen, but we can take physical hits if need be. Scald Ice Beam, Future Sight, and Teleport does very, very well. We also have our Archeops rocking out with Meteor Beam, Earth Power, Air Slash, and Ancient Power. Ancient Power is really there because I didn't need another move. Never saw me getting a Rock Polish off, and I figured having a reliable Rock Stab would have been is nice in the case of like a 1v1 versus Mence, and I've already popped my Meteor Beam. Not having to hit an Air Slash or, you know, not being able to get a KO or something like that, because that could have been really, really unfortunate. So, that being said, let's go ahead and jump on into it. We are going to be leading off with our Slowking into this Kangaskhan. I see no reason to take a big hit, take a Toxic, or anything like that. I'm going to go into my Designated Check and Steelix, and you're going to see this thing actually elects to substitute. But this isn't too big of a deal for me, because I'm a Rocky Helmet variant. These power-up punches are not going to be doing much damage to me, and they're going to be doing much, much more damage to him. I can just roar him out and get him on out of there. Next up, the Meds is going to come out. I'm actually going to pivot Slowking just to scout and see exactly what kind of set this is. If it was like a Fire Blast variant, it just would have knocked me out there. And I got a free Ice Beam, and nothing it can do unless it's Life Orb can 2-hit KO me, and it doesn't really have an Oko on me either. So this Ice Beam is very free into the Bolton right here. I see he's going to make a good play and go for a Fire Fang. You see, that does 46, and in my head I'm like, dang, Bolton, you pretty strong. No, he's not strong. That's actually Choice Band to Spadef Steelix, so it's not very strong. Choice Band's Strong Jaw, by the way, just a very weak Pokemon. He's gonna make this pivot onto Nidoqueen, which is very, very interesting. I wonder what he was expecting my double into. Maybe Victini, maybe Tyranitar. I guess that makes sense, but Slowking was very free. I knew that it was banned. I didn't really have to play around with it. I could just offer free Scald. Unfortunately, not get the burn on this Necrozma here, but I know that I can always take a hit from it. I can always teleport out, and I just get out into my Megatar. And again, I EV'd for this. I know I live a +1 Crunch. Very easy. He's actually going to Moonlight, not get much back in the sand, and then get 74% chunked off from that Crunch. Going to Earthquake the next turn, but again, we're good. We can just knock him out with a Crunch again. Next up, Lucario is going to come out, and if you look at my team, I don't really have good Lucario counterplay if it's like a Swords Dance variant. If it ends up like SDing up and like being like SD Crunchy Speed Close Combat, things can get pretty hairy pretty quick if I miss my Hurricane with Torn. So I realized that I can't really let this thing set up, in all honesty. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go for an Earthquake to prevent setup. It actually ends up agility. Excuse me. And I am going to knock it out here, which is obviously amazing. Now, for T-Tar here into this Kangaskhan, I almost wrote it Kangaskhan because that's his nickname. I realize I don't need to sack it off. If he wants to power up punch, he basically dies to Steelix plus Sand. And Tar can still live a hit from like a Choice Scarf Salamence to a Wing Beat. It can live a hit from a Choice Bolton clicking, even Thunderfang at this point, and things like that. So T-Tar still has use where Steelix kind of doesn't beyond this Kangaskhan. And I'm okay with sacking it as well to get nice and free momentum here, as he is going to take those 2 Rocky Helmet turns this next turn. And the turn after, he is going to knock me out with Earthquake. Sorry, Sand ended. I can't count. Which is, again, completely fine, as I can go out into my Archeops. I actually click Ancient Power, trying to bait for a boost. We don't get it, but it's all good in the hood. Bolton's going to come out. It's going to click Thunderfang and actually knock me out. But again, this is why we saved our Tar. Now I have a very free Crunch that's basically a KO on something. Or a KO on this dog. It does go ahead and throw off the Thunderfang. It doesn't flinch me. Thankfully, things could have gotten very bad if it flinched me, but we're able to knock it out. Out comes Mence, and I see that it is a Moxie variant, obviously, from earlier, so I don't want to let it get that boost for free. We're going to pivot out into Slowking, and again, just throw off a very, very free Ice Beam, and really chip down this Nidoqueen, which, again, very, very nice for me. I'm going to make the play of sacking off my Tyranitar. It doesn't do anything else at this point. It gets outsped by both members, potentially, and is just a bit of a nuisance. Going to go out into Victini. Unfortunately, I don't have Psychic, so I can't knock this thing out, but Blue Flare does do a chunk, and it's going to do enough of a chunk to put it in range of a Glaciate, and being at how bulky this thing was, it wasn't knocking me off an Earth Power there. Then lastly, go and prevent at least any kind of setup on this thing. If it is like a Dragon Dance variant Glaciate, it'll always keep it at neutral speed, and I'll be able to, revenge it with Torn or something like that. provided I hit my hurricanes, I guess. And if he's a Scarf Variant, I'll be able to see exactly what he locks into. We're going to see a Dueling Beat here and recognize he can't really knock me out with anything. Dueling Beat did not kill from there, guys, because he's not banded. And I'm going to be able to knock him out with an Ice Beam, sending us to an 8-2 record into playoffs. I believe we're actually going up against Corey, who we just played 2 weeks prior in round 1, which is always a good time. We love rematches. But I'm feeling pretty good up to this point in the season, so let's go ahead and jump on into that. Alrighty, guys, here we are with our round 1 playoff game against Corey again. We had a very, very close match last time, and I'll keep it a buck with you guys. I'll show you the team really quick. I actually end up bringing the same exact team, and it's just copied over. I double checked. It is the same exact team with our DD Tar, Specs Teeny, pretty offensive Torn, our defensive Slowking, Mixed F, Steelix, and our Archeops. I'll keep it a buck. It wasn't because I was lazy, I forgot. I sat down for like an hour or two the night before this game was supposed to be played, and I really did take off some sets, change some moves, do some things like that, and I really just felt like what I had initially was my best build. And I also felt like there's a little bit of a mind game going into it. He sees the same exact Pokemon, the same exact slots and things like that. He starts seeing the same moves. He might be like, man, this is the same exact team, I'm going to play this way. Or he might be like, okay, maybe Owen's trying to get me here. So maybe it'll end up coming to help me out here. But again, we're rocking out the same team that we did in Week 8. It's nothing different. We can go ahead and jump on into the battle itself, though. You see that Corey did bring the Trevenant again. Celesteela, Tentacruel this time, Landorus, Therian, the Komodo, and Meloetta once again. His team's obviously much, much different, being that he brought the Tentacruel and Komodo this time. So we obviously have to play a little bit differently and see exactly what he's going for. So that'll at least be a different, which is nice. Turn 1, again, we have a very similar lead scenario where he is going to, we're going to lead off with their Slowking. He's going to like to lead off with the Landorus this time. I actually feel pretty comfortable going for a teleport. I expect him to want to U-turn out and not really risk his Lando, as again, I don't have a ground resist on this team, but Corey's going to make a very aggressive play turn 1, kind of reading how the game went last time, and is going to turn 1 knockoff here. He's going to get rid of my helmet, which is definitely really, really annoying. Being able to chip down things, would have been really, really clutch for me, but regardless, we're going to be able to get out into our Archeops and knock it out with our Meteor Beam. Once again, our boy, the Landorus Slayer. Big Archeops here. Next up, Komodo is going to come out, and this was very interesting to me. I said, okay, well, if he's Scarf, I get to kind of see that right here, which is good info for me. And maybe if he's like an Assault Vest set, I can see that. Or maybe he's even Focus Sash. Regardless, I'm just going to stay in an Air Slash this thing. This isn't a win con. This is here to kind of get in early, throw off a strong Meteor Beam, and really chunk or kill something, and then break everything down afterwards, which is nice. He's actually going to reveal a Cobra Bear, you'll see. He's a very bulky set too, so as he's going to throw off a Rock Slide and not kill me. The next turn, he's going to pivot out into Tentacruel to save his Komodo, which makes sense, especially if it's like a Rocker or something of the sorts. Pivot in on Steelix well and go on to Tentacruel. I'm going to keep my Sack and my Archeops as well, because again, why not? Why would we not do so? He's going to go for a T-Spike on his Tentacruel, as I'm going to get in my Victini. I'm actually pretty okay with this thing getting poisoned. I don't need to keep it super healthy, and it's pretty hard for him to get up rocks this game, honestly. I have to play pretty passively to let it happen, so I'm going to get into my Victini and just throw off a Spec Psychic, as he doesn't have a resist. I'm going to go out, and he's going to go out into his Trevenant right here, and I'm going to bring him down to about 30%, which is nice. We see no leftovers this time, and we see that that does a ton of damage, obviously, to it Chaos. But something I want to do is I want to actually pivot out into my Tornadus, because I really want to get this Defog off. While I'm okay with Victini being poisoned, I don't want my T-Tar poisoned, and I definitely don't want my Slowking poisoned in the slightest. So I'm actually going to make that play out into Torn right here. As he doubles into the Meloetta, probably seeing that I'm Specs, ends up working out for me. I didn't really call the Meloetta, but I'll take it. We defog with a T-Spike, and he actually reveals to be a Life Orb set, which does a ridiculous amount of damage. Makes it to where we can't really pivot safely into our Slowking on this thing this time. And honestly, this is a really smart bring considering what we had last time. T-Bolt, Focus Blast, Psychic, or Hyper Voice, thing of the sorts, really hits my team super hard. So I'm going to be able to U-turn out and do a lot of damage here, but he does get a KO here. There's nothing I can do to really stop it. I'm going to pivot Archeops. He makes a good mid-ground play and just goes for a Focus Blast. He missed, but again, you're not going to see, it's not that big of a deal, as he does just kind of take a little bit of chip and then take that Hyper Voice right there. I suppose what it does do is it allows me to go Torn and threaten this thing out with a U-turn as I do knock it out, whereas opposed to I might have had to go Victini otherwise and throw off a Blue Flare. But regardless, I don't think it's the biggest deal in the world that he ended up missing that Focus Blast, as we were stacking our Archeops anyways. But again, we'll see. I am going to go for a U-turn, again, getting a little bit more regen, getting out on that Tentacle, and now again, we're just going to throw off a Spec Psychic. We won't won't knock out this tentacle in one, but we will do a ton of damage to it, and it won't knock us out. And again, we are forcing a KO essentially right here. I thought about doubling out here, expecting the Celesteela to come in or something like that, but I realized I'm better off just getting psychic damage offing on it. You know, kind of gauging its set and then taking that free momentum as I go down so I can get free, you know, pivot momentum into something else. The fact that he did make that play also makes me think he might be offensive, being that he didn't want to take that chip on his Celesteela. So we'll see how that ends up going. He is going to go Komodo this next turn as I go Slowking. He will Toxic me, so my attempts to not be toxic on Slowking are going to go in vain. But we do Psychic and knock out the Komodo, which is great. Next up, Trevenant's going to come out, and you're going to actually see it pop with a Horn Leech. And I'll be honest, during the game, I did not calc this. In my head, I was like, okay, he's like an adamant, you know, Trevenant. That's probably what he is. That's actually choice band to like a mostly Spadef Steelix, by the way. I'm showing that either Trevenant's really bad or Steelix is really broken, or a combination of the two, but we absolutely eat that up. And because of that, I actually feel pretty darn comfortable after this Iron Head. Or after, this Horn Leech, going for my rocks, because I can chip him down with an Iron Head after this, and Steelix doesn't beat anything else on this team. I know that kind of looks like it sucks to crit, but again, we have lots of things to revenge this guy in the back. For example, our Mega Tar, where there's no crunch resist, so we're going to go ahead and just Mega up and crunch. I didn't want to take a Willow if he was like Colbur, or obviously he was banded. Definitely didn't want to take a banned Horn Leech. So right here at Mellowood, it's going to come out. He makes a phenomenal play and goes for a Thunderbolt. Obviously, if I DD'd there, like, it was kind of a Rapskis, but Torn was definitely my safest play, like by far, just to avoid that Focus Blast and kind of go from there. So he makes a very solid read and just calls the regen pivot and is going to be able to knock me out completely. This next turn, he is going to Thunderbolt again, but being that he dies to Life Orb / Sand, whatever comes first, I'm actually going to be able to throw off a big teleport, and this is going to get me a lot more chip or health back on my Slowking, so I can live a hit from the Celesteela guaranteed, and it's also going to let in my Tar for free, which is really important right here. This next turn, I am going to Dragon Dance up as he does Heavy Slam, and this shows he's a pretty offensive Celesteela right here, doing a nice 48%, and that's a little bit scary, but we saw that it does not 2-hit kill me no matter what. So we should be fine. We just crunch twice and we win the game. If we Stone Edged right there, we did kill, but I wasn't sure on his HP investment, and if I missed, I lost the game potentially with a crit. So I figured that crunch was just going to be a safe play because I dodge a crit on Heavy Slam, I kill with another crunch, or I just revenge with Slowking or something like that with a Flamethrower. But you're gonna see Corey pop off with the Jaboka Berry Celesteela tech. And you might be thinking, well, why not just be Rocky Helmet? If you don't know, Jaboka Berry is just a one-turn Rocky Helmet, essentially, when a Pokemon makes contact on you. But you're gonna see, he's actually an autotomized Jaboka Berry set. And this is to go ahead and give him not only the speed boost and get rid of the item, but also a full-powered Acrobatics that we just barely live on 50 or on 18% there. So we're just barely able to hold on, just thanks to Slowking being super bulky in this game, and we're barely gonna sneak on by to semifinals. This was a great game by Corey. I think he bought an awesome team. Like, I think the Mellow was super smart. The T-Spikes on Tentacle was awesome. The Jaboka Berry tech on Celesteela. He played very aggressive turn one. This was like a very good game by Corey, and it was honestly a nail biter. And we were lucky to come out on top here. So it was definitely a lot of fun. I'll be right back with semis. Already, semifinals rolls around, and we're going up against Mid, who had a killer season with the most mid Pokemaster team of all time. He has the Mega Beedrill, Skarmory, Dracovish, Zarude, Mew, and Swampert. Of course, the Mew. Which this team is very scary. First off, the Dracovish. I do not have good Dracovish counterplay at all. You'll see my check. It's the 5th member of my team, and that's usually not a good sign when your Dracovish answer is a Rillaboom, right? Mega Beedrill, another Pokemon. It just U-turns forever and ever. I could have tried to fit Steelix, but Steelix was so exploitable in this matchup, I really felt like I had to leave it on the bench. Things like Torn can soft check it, and then most things on my team can live a hit from it that aren't named Rillaboom, but everything else can chew something up from it and kind of deal with it accordingly. The Skarm is a great stop to Rillaboom, which is annoying because offensively, other than that, it goes pretty crazy. So Zarude can always be a big issue. Particularly Scarf is kind of what I'm worried about on a team like this, especially because I think if he's not Scarf Zarude, he's pretty weak to Tar in general. Like, just DD Tar goes crazy, or even Rock Polish, as it will outspeed a Beedrill and things like that. And then Mew can do a million different things versus my squad. So we have a big task ahead of us. I'll go ahead and show you the squad that we're rocking out with this week. You already know the Torn set: Hurricane, U-turn, Knock Off, and Taunt. It does really well into teams like this, though, with things like Skarmory, Mew, Swampert, like these fatter, and more annoying threats. They really don't appreciate the taunts and hurricanes and you know, knockoffs and things like that coming their way, getting rid of leftovers and helmets and things of the sort. So it really is a necessary evil in this game. We have a mixed defensive Slowking with Scald, Teleport, Slack Off, and Toxic. Pivots into Mew well and can really chew up anything that it wants to do, even after boosting on either which way. And we can go ahead and Toxic it. Now, I know that we'll also be Toxic, but that is a trade that I'm willing to make for Slowking, just because Mew can do so much to our team right now. Then we have our Mienshao. We're rocking out with the Choice Scarf set. Pretty darn simple and self-explanatory. Grabs good momentum in this game. It's a Scarfer faster than Dracovish, which I felt was really, really important in this game, as Dracovish should be Scarfed in this matchup, like, always 100% of the time. It's also faster than, like, a +1 Mew if it's, like, a Dragon Dance set, so we can go ahead and knock off and, you know, pick that thing off with a little bit of chip, or even U-turn if it is in range and we think it might be Colbur or something of the sort, so. Mienshao is pretty good, though, and outside of that, Mew, CC is pretty spammable, which can always be great. It's a great revenge killing tool. Then we have our No Nature Mega T-Tar. I'm No Nature on accident, I believe. I was supposed to be modest on this. I just misclicked or just didn't click, I guess. It's not really a misclick if you don't click it. But we're Dark Pulse, Flamethrower, Stealth Rock, and Toxic. This is actually going to be our lead. And as dumb as it sounds, this is kind of like a suicide lead, right? We live one hit from anything not named Dracovish, and I have an early game Dracovish pivot. Even something like Beedrill, I can take a hit from. And no matter what is happening turn 1, I'm getting up my rocks. Rocks are incredibly important in chipping down that Dracovish, chipping down that Beedrill especially. Not avoiding that thing, free switch-ins and U-turns throughout the game is going to be my way of beating it, to be completely honest. So rocks are incredibly important. Toxic is to whittle down things like the Swampert if we do need to, or like a non-jungle healing Zarude. Flamethrower is to hit the T-Tar plus the Zarude very hard, and then Dark Pulse is going to hit things hard as well. And I felt Special was just a little bit better in this matchup just because of things like Skarmory and things of the sort, because I'd like to get a lot of chip on that thing. Next up is our Fistef Rillaboom. Again, a pretty fun team this week, actually. But Grass Glide, U-turn, Knockoff, and Leech Seed. It's not a good long-term Dracovish answer, and I know that I'm giving it terrain when I come out, kind of healing it, but Rocky Helmet does help mitigate that. That plus Sand should kind of get rid of grassy terrain for him, if that makes any sense, which is nice for me. I can U-turn to grab momentum. I'm always going to knock and get rid of that Skarm's Helmet, as it should probably be Helmet in this game. Leech Seed is going to allow me to stay healthy on switch outs to Pokemon that aren't Zarude, and that would be a very, very reckless play. Plus, the priority could be nice for like a weakened Mew, a weakened Dracovish, a weakened Beedrill if it's like at like, you know, sub 25%. Grassy Glide does not do much. It is 4 times resisted, but it also breaks through the pert. And again, it's going to grab good momentum this week. It's not a Pokemon that's going to win this week, and we're not rocking out with the band that we typically do, but it does do well. Then we have another really cool set, and some I'm pretty proud of. It's nothing too crazy. It is just going to be a heavy-duty Victini with Blue Flare, Charge Beam, Grass Knot, and Flame Charge. I think if I can get a Flame Charge up and get 1 or 2 boosts maximum with this Victini, it can just win. Now, Dracovish just has to take a little bit of chip to be in range of a +1 Grass Knot, but it's a pretty heavy mon, and that is going to be neutral damage, so that's going to chunk it. And honestly, everything else other than Swampert and Dracovish just get rocked by Blue Flare on this team. Just absolutely rocked. We can find Charge Beam opportunities on like more passive Mews, or potentially a Skarmory that we think is going to be switching out or something of the sorts, which is great. Or just a sacked off Skarmory, things like that. So if we can position this Victini, I think it does do really, really well. Okay, that being said, let's go ahead and jump on into it. We are going to lead off with our Suicide lead Megatar here. And again, he leads off with the Beedrill, which makes sense. I don't have good Beedrill counterplay. And getting that Mega off and getting a free U-turn just seems very appetizing for mid. He is going to U-turn out as I do just get up my Stealth Rock free of charge. And now Swampert comes out, which should mean a free Toxic. We're going to go ahead and unfortunately miss this one, which is not good. But this next turn, we once again have a free Toxic, right? Because it's only Toxic Immunity to Skarm, and if he wants to make that play, I'm more than happy to take Flamethrower chip on that guy. He has to make a lot of really ballsy predictions, not knowing my set, to avoid getting this Pert Toxic, or having his Skarmory take a Flamethrower, or something else Toxic. And again, Beedrill is just not a play, guys. Because again, I could also just reserve to get off damage here as I go down and scout an item. So I'm just going to Toxic again. You're actually going to see that he is going to dodge it once again, and get this flip turn off and get us down to 6%, which is really annoying. I would have loved a Toxic on this Pert, but 'tis life. That's Pokemon. Zarude's gonna come out, and as much as I can kind of just let Tar go down here, I figured it was actually my best interest to go Torn, because he could potentially U-turn and knock us out and give us momentum that way. But if he wanted to go for a CC, I could always start him out with my Torn or a Lariat or anything like that. Even Rock Slide really isn't all that threatening. And if he predicts with the Rock Slide and it's like a 2-hit KO on my Torn, I will just switch out and sack off my T-Tar, scouting for Scarf and things like that. And again, that's kind of the beauty of Regen, is being able to make those safe pivots and things like that, and save your sacks and really, you know, manage your assets very, very well. So I'm going to go ahead and go pivot Torn here, as he is going to take a little bit of chip and damage. Oh, he's not Scarf too, because he showed me Leftover, so I didn't even have to worry about Scarf. Look at that. And again, very bulky Torn this week, so we're just going to be able to get a very free U-turn. He's not going to take a Hurricane or a U-turn, grabbing me nice momentum here, as the Swampert's going to come in, and this means a very free knockoff. And again, this is how we kind of push our own progress on things like the Skarmory, because I am going to be able to knock it off, and that's going to mean that my U-turns for the rest of the game are incredibly free. As I do knock off its helmet, it does show to be helmet. And the next turn, I can U-turn out and go into the Pokemon I choose. Now, this is going to be the point in which I kind of elect to sack off my T-Tar. Not that Skarmory is, like, oppressive defensively or anything like that, but mainly because I think that Toxic is very free here, and I don't want to let Victini Toxic, but at the same time, I don't have great means of breaking through this Skarmory, so I want that free switch in. So I am going to sack off my T-Tar here. You do see that he does go for the Toxic, so I'm very glad we made the correct play, because you can see Victini is incredibly important throughout this game. He's going to pivot out into Swampert right here. Blue Flare is going to do a good 24, which is a good chunk, showing that this thing is pretty spadef, but in the terrain, Grass Knot kills 100% of the time. And we actually see right here, this is Leftovers. So in my head, I thought Mib was going to make an aggressive pivot onto Zarude and try and grab a little more momentum back for himself or something of the sorts. Maybe it was a bit of an overplay. I didn't think he would just give up the Swampert, being as annoying as it was for me. But he does elect to just kind of flip turn out to get momentum, which isn't, again, an objective bad play. It's just, honestly, it is a bit of me overplaying here. As the Dracovish is going to get in for free, he's going to receive the grassy terrain first. Though that doesn't actually tell you if someone's faster, if I understand that mechanic correctly, which is weird, because all the other terrains kind of have a queue to let you know who's faster. But regardless, I still have a very free Rillaboom right here, as he is just going to go ahead and throw off that Vicious Rend. You see, that doesn't actually kill me from here, especially after I receive that terrain back. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to Leech Seed on the Skarmory. And what leeching on the Skarmory does, is you're going to see, it takes the rocks damage down at 57, no leftovers or anything of the sorts. It brings it down to 45 after this Leech Seed recovery. 1, now I can live a Vicious Rend after rocks from the Dracovish, which is great. 2, this almost forces him into a roost scenario, so I'm going to be able to make this U-turn play and get out into my Victini, again, without fear of being toxic right here. So I can just throw off a Blue Flare, and you're going to see this also bringing me back up to basically full after that Swampert Grass Knot a little bit earlier, which is really nice. Now, we're going to do 28, we're going to get the bird, but again, there's no reason for me to risk it at this point. Now there's no way he saves it whatsoever, so I am going to be able to knock out the Swampert here, drawing our first blood. Next up, Dracovish is going to come out, and Rillaboom is going to come out as well. Again, I very much will live this hit here. It only does 36, which is going to leave me very low. But, again, Rillaboom has sort of done its job. It's given us free switches to our, into the Skarmory, or into the Dracovish, and kind of given us good momentum. This next turn, I'm actually going to elect to go ahead and go for a Grassy Glide. The reason I don't make, like, a U-turn play or a knockoff play or anything like that this time is because, 1, I am now obviously in range of his Vicious Rend. But 2, Mid's been playing very aggressively all game and has kind of been making reads. This is the only mon I've kind of been getting the calls right with knocking and leeching and things like that. And I had a feeling he was going to get a little bit over aggressive here and go for a Vicious Rend, just trying to pick me off and kind of just win the game from there. And it wasn't really a play that I could afford to make, in the sense that, like, if I got the play wrong and I U-turned out, I did just, like, basically lose to Dracovish almost. Maybe Slowking could have helped slow down the process, but Slowking doesn't appreciate taking these hits. So I'm actually going to go for that Grassy Glide. in order to bring this thing down incredibly low. And after a Fishious Rend and our Grassy Glide, it's down at 12% after our terrain, which means that our Mienshao can come in. If he's not removal on anything, this dies on entry to any hazard, and I don't think that his Skarmory is going to be Toxic Roost, Defog, whatever attacking move it is, and I definitely don't think it's going to be Defog, Mew, or Mega B, so I feel pretty comfortable just knocking this thing out with a U-turn, and if he did elect to save it, then I got to grab momentum and go into something that I'd like. Now, next up, Torn comes, and you see we're in a phenomenal position here. There's not much that really beats Torn at this point. We taunt the Mew, we U-turn / Hurricane the Zarude, and we taunt the Skarmory. And that is basically it, and then U-turn out afterwards. So Torn does incredible. He's actually going to elect to go into Beedrill right here, and you're going to see this is pretty unfortunate. I do knock him out with a Hurricane if I hit. Unfortunately, after taking that Poison Jab, I do miss. And this basically means we need to sack off a member. I elect to sack off my Mienshao, and I do feel it's most expendable. Plus, I did live a Poison Jab if you went for that again. But Mid makes a good play, goes for the middle ground knockoff because it's going to make it to where my Scarfer doesn't outspeed him now. But with this free switch into my Victini, I've put myself in a decent spot, right? At least to break through a little bit, as the Skarmory is going to come out right next. I do Flame Charge here because I lived any Victini hit from there, even knockoff and things like that, and I could knock him out with a Flame Charge and be fast and everything. But thankfully, he goes to Skarmory, and we're able to Flame Charge into Blue Flare. I thought about Charge Beaming there just to get that boost in special attack, but Charge Beam did not kill, and if he Toxic or Brave Bird or Whirlwind did, I was in an even worse spot, and you know, obviously I can't take that risk, unfortunately. Next up, the Mew comes out, showing me that it definitely has something to hit me, which is unfortunate. I was kind of hoping the opposite, but after a 59% Blue Flare, you're going to see we're going to get a burn. And in my head, I'm like, oh, that's funny. Usually don't get burns on Blue Flare, but I didn't really realize how big this was at the time, as you're going to see him actually go for a Poltergeist, showing that Mid was probably a physical DD variant, as I eat that up, and I'm able to 2-hit KO the Mew with this Blue Flare, and from here, all we gotta do is hit some moves, or really just one move, because we knock out the Zaru with Blue Flare, and then out comes the Mega Beedrill, which we can knock out with a Flame Charge, which is a lot more accurate, obviously, and we are able to sneak by with a nice 3-0 victory. Now, the game could have gotten very, very dicey, very, very fast, especially if I didn't get that burn on Mew, but I think it was a little bit justified considering the early game and how things kind of went down. But yeah, we make it to finals. Now, that's obviously the last video of this, you know, or last battle of this video. Finals up to this point haven't been played. We're playing against John Jr., who is a relegated coach in WPF, but a very good player and a very good buddy of mine. So I'm really excited for that guy. Hopefully we can take him down and win our sweater. That'll hopefully be up next week at some point, depending on when we play. And yeah, if you guys are excited, be sure to drop a like and sub to the channel. And yeah, thank you guys for watching the vid. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.